This is a true crime discussions channel. We speculate. This is all just speculation. Because it's true crime, it's for mature audiences only. There will be no children allowed, no exceptions. Everything on this channel falls under fair use. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. It's free. Hey everyone, how are y'all doing today? Hey Zio and Joy and Bad Girl, Serena and Judy Berens. Thank you for being here, love. I saw somebody say hey to Rubber, but I don't see you. So hey Rubber, Ramada and Jenny Jen and Joy. Wanted to make sure that I got everybody. I hope y'all are doing okay. Are y'all ready for Thanksgiving? I am not. I've still got to go to the store. Goodness me. So busy. So busy lately. So have y'all heard about the sheriff and the judge? Cold here in Ohio. It's a little chilly here in North Carolina, but I was cooking all morning, and so it made the house hot. You ready for Thanksgiving, Joy? I wish I was. So I don't know if you've heard about the Kentucky sheriff who shot the Kentucky judge, but it's in a small town. The county is called Letcher County, Kentucky, and evidently this was the only judge in the whole entire town. Like, they're having to get a new judge in town. The sheriff's office was in the courthouse, and this man just walked right in and shot him. So yesterday he actually got indicted. Hey, Pinto. Or not yesterday. I think it was Monday, which would have been yesterday, I do believe. Yeah, but it was maybe Friday. He got indicted. And I've been looking for the document, but in Kentucky, you have to like walk there and physically go there to get documents. So I haven't been able to get it yet. I've been looking at news articles to try to find it, but I have not found it yet. But he did go to court, and I had been covering this case from the beginning. So I wanted to go over it with you guys and give you the new updates.
Community of under 2,000 residents. It's the kind of...
So we're going to go back to the beginning so I can kind of refresh you on this case, because I don't know how many of you have heard about it. So we are going to start with this. This is Court TV, and it's titled, How and Why Did a Kentucky Sheriff Unalive Judge Mullins? So with that, we'll get started. And again, thank you all for being here. Pinto, if I didn't say hey to you, hello, love, and thank you for being here.
Whitesburg, Kentucky is a small rural community of under 2,000 residents. It's the kind of place where everyone knows each other. And in many circumstances, they have both personal and professional connections. It's a place where the word homicide is rarely spoken. In fact, it was one of the few places where you could walk into the courthouse without going through a metal detector. But that feeling of comfort and safety was shaken on the afternoon of September 19th. That's when prosecutors say the elected sheriff, Mickey Steins, walked into the chambers of District Judge Kevin Mullins for a private meeting. What happened next? No one in this small town expected. Prosecutors say the sheriff fired his gun several times, taking the life of Judge Mullins. The sheriff then walked into the courtroom, laid down his gun, and surrendered himself. Sheriff Mickey Steins is now charged with first-degree murder, and the community of Whitesburg is trying to understand how and why this happened. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And you talk about this small community out in Kentucky, but what you're really talking about, unbelievably, are two cases taking place inside that courthouse, two cases taking place inside the judge's chambers. Now, we've heard all about Mickey Steins and the allegations that he shot and killed the judge, but something else happened inside that judge's chambers. The sexual assault of a woman involving a sheriff's deputy. It's part of the lawsuit. We're going to talk about that tonight.
So I don't know if you think this is related or not, but once you hear about it, please let me know what you think. If you think it's related to why the sheriff unalived the judge, let me know.
Because this is a big deal, because the sheriff has been sued in that case. We know he's been charged for what happened to the judge, but he was also sued in this other case for his role as the sheriff. Now, he's not the one accused of the actual assault, but he is the deputy's boss. He's in charge of training him, supervising, investigating behavior. So 2 cases, like how is it a coincidence? I think is one thing a lot of people are looking at. Is there any connection between these 2 cases? That's something we're going to talk about tonight. But I don't want you to forget the victim, Judge Mullins. He was shot. He was killed. His family is hurting big time. The whole community's hurting, but his family, his children. And again, we still don't know the full story of exactly what happened, and we really don't know why it happened. But what we do know is that right now in Whitesburg, Kentucky, it's a town full of rumors. It's a town full of rumors about why this happened. And there's a range of them, some getting a little bit more play than others. But we don't know. We don't know. That has not been made public. It's not.
And it's still not public. This video is from, I think, 2 months ago. I'm just trying to refresh you guys. I had to step into the kitchen and do a couple of things. I wasn't quite ready yet. So I'm here and you have my full undivided attention. Hello, true crime addict, and thank you for being here. So again, this is a refresher on the case of Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins shooting Judge Mullins and why we think it happened. The motive still hasn't been released, but I have some speculations and we'll talk about that.
It's not part of any document that's been released. It's not part of any statement that's been made by anyone official connected to the case or anything from the defense side. So
Joy says, I can't figure out who the judge was married to. The judge was married to a woman who was sisters. Okay, so there's a set of sisters, okay? And these sisters, one married the judge and the other one married the district attorney. And this is a very small town. So there's like one judge, one district attorney, one sheriff. I suppose there's one sheriff in every town, but you get the point. Like usually there's a couple of judges and, there's a system of checks and balances. Like the issue that you would have in a small town like this, where there's one judge, one of everything, and not multiple, there's no checks and balances. Okay. So if there's some kind of corruption going on, you could easily get everybody involved instead of there being, like if you have more than one judge in the area, one of the judges you would hope would be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Hey, Ava Sim 76. I appreciate you being here.
We're still waiting to hear and to understand, because I believe whatever the reason for this was could impact the charges, could impact a verdict, could impact a lot of things. So we're going to stay tuned for that. But let's get some more information. Joining us live from the Leslie County Detention Center in Kentucky, Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson is with us. And Matt, tomorrow, big day. The sheriff will face a judge for the first time. And this is, he spent a career in law enforcement, first time on this side of the courtroom or this side of the law.
That's right, Vinny. Nice to see you. So we have the Letcher County Sheriff, who is still sheriff. He hasn't resigned just yet. Mickey Steins, he's in this jail here behind me. And to avoid any sort of conflict of interest, he's not in the jail that he ran and oversaw. He is an hour and a half away in this county, Leslie County, that we were talking about. And tomorrow morning is that big, big day, because in another county, 2.5 hours from here, that's when his arraignment is taking place tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. And again, because all of the players know.
So we have had that arraignment, and he did appear in court. I think it was yesterday. Joy, that's such a sweet thing to say. Thank you for the compliment. And Bad Girl said conflict of interest in most of these cases. Then yes, there is a lot of conflict of interest, and there's a lot of conflict of interest in this case. I mean, there's a lot going on in this little small town. And that happens a lot, you know. You get these little small towns, and one person comes in that's corrupt, that's in a place of power, and it's easy to turn all the other officials in that county to corruption if there's not a lot of people, because, you know, you show them a large amount of money that's, you know, more money than they're going to make in a lifetime. A lot of people, unfortunately, would say, well, yeah, I want a part of that. I want a piece of that pie. And then you got corruption, and then that leads to things like what we saw. Now, I don't know that there's a lot of corruption involved specifically with him shooting the judge, but there was some corruption there, and we're going to hear about it.
Know each other in this small county, this small community where this all took place. There is a special prosecutor assigned to the case, and also a special judge. So we're getting new players that are going to be involved in this. But this sheriff will not be arraigned in person. He is actually going to appear via video. But tonight, he is finding himself on the other side of the bars here at this jail tonight.
And we're looking at the map, seeing how spread out everyone is because of the obvious conflicts associated with all of this. Let's go back to that small community, though, that was absolutely shaken by all of this. I understand you had an opportunity to speak with the mayor.
Yeah, we sat down with the mayor, Tiffany Kraft. She is a longtime resident of Whitesburg. She grew up there. Her late husband was actually the mayor at one point in time. That inspired her to run. And like most people that we're talking to today and over the past couple days during our Court TV investigation, absolutely shocked and shared this with us.
Yeah, I had gotten a phone call about what was happening as I was passing by the courthouse, actually. And it was from my mother, who works in the PBA office there, who is just right across the hallway from the judge's chambers. We didn't know who, we didn't know how bad it was, but we just knew that we had an active shooter. So I make it back to my office and find out that the judge had been shot. And when I found out the news of who did it, I didn't believe it at first. Two stellar community members who are active in their community, who are great friends, and we never dreamed that anything like this would ever have happened.
You know, and everyone that we talked to, including the mayor there, Her Honor, so we hear the same thing, that both the suspect and the victim were friends and they were great guys. Everybody knew them. And she was at the memorial service for Kevin Mullins over the weekend, the late judge, and she said hundreds of people, her friends and family, showed up.
So again, I'm giving you a refresher. I'm not going to be able to go over everything I know about this case today. I've done several streams on this. If you go back through my live streams, you can get a lot more information. But I'm going to try to kind of in a nutshell go over what I've talked about in those streams as well. Hey there, Rubber and Trixie. Thank you so much for being here.
To pay their respects.
I'm looking at the picture of these two guys, and I could see them being friends. I mean, just looking at it, I mean, I could see that, which makes this even more puzzling. And Matt, I understand we've uncovered some new audio recordings associated with this case.
Right. So this is not the 911 call, but this is the emergency call that went out to those first responders. And it really, when you listen to this, you hear just the urgency and the fright in even the dispatcher's voice. Take a listen.
3670 Fletcher County Courthouse. That shot's fired on the second floor. Fired on the second floor.
So again, you know, I mean, this is something that is unprecedented, uncharted waters for everyone involved, because it's the first responders that are responding to this, and they know the suspect and they know the victim, just like everybody else in the town, but they worked with them intimately. So This is just unreal for most people that have been touched by this in this small town.
And Matt, you've been on the ground there, obviously. A lot of rumors floating around, but any idea on the possible motive associated with this?
Yeah, and you brought it up earlier, right? It's that federal investigation, that federal lawsuit. That's what people keep on bringing up. There's no official motive in all of this that has come forward. Right now, all of this is still under investigation with the state police. But Court TV.
So we still don't have a motive yet, a concrete motive, but there is a lot of speculation and a lot of information on what the motive could possibly be. Hi, Mary Lou. Thank you so much for being here, lovely.
Has obtained these court documents that I want to talk about briefly. The days leading up to this deadly shooting, just a couple days before, it was Sheriff Steins that was deposed in a federal lawsuit involving a former deputy under his command who pled guilty to forcing a woman to have sex with the deputy in Mullins Chambers. This happened years ago, after hours, in exchange to keep that person out of jail. We reached out to the attorneys, and they say that they're...
Okay. So this paper, what they've got highlighted says, at the Letcher County Courthouse in the evening after dark, defendants Fields took plaintiff into Judge Mullins' chambers in failing to adequately train and supervise defendant Fields. So let me tell you what was going on with this. And if I can find it, I will pull, there's a lawyer representing the plaintiff in this case. So there is a lawsuit going on that basically people that were going through a drug treatment program through the court to get lesser sentences. When they were in jail, they would talk to this Detective Fields and say, basically, I will do something strange for a little bit of change if you let me out and don't give me an ankle monitor or, whatever, in exchange for lesser sentences, things like that. The victim, and they're victims in this case, that detective, even if he was told that, should have said, no, we're not going to do that. Or, it also could have been him saying, I'll give you a lesser sentence if you do this. So this detective was taking them from the jail to the courthouse in the judge's chambers. And you ask why in the judge's chambers? Well, because they're not allowed to have cameras in there. However, somebody was investigating this lawsuit and they did have a hidden camera in there, but it has no audio. And you're not supposed to have audio and things like that in the judge's chambers because that's where lawyers go to speak. You know how they say, see me in my chambers. They'll go in there and speak about a case and then come back out to court. That's why you're not supposed to record and things like that in there. So this detective knew that there would be no cameras there. So he was taking female inmates from the jail to the judge's chambers and doing and abusing them. And you ask why there. Again, there's no cameras allowed in there, and in the jail, there's cameras everywhere, okay? In the courtroom, there's cameras, but we don't know. They could have been shut off after dark. And from my experience, a lot of times there is a tunnel that will go underground, and it goes from the courthouse to the jail so that you can take inmates privately from the jail to the court without them going out in public or people seeing them, depending on the case or whatever. So if they have that there, you can imagine how easy it would be for him to take them out of their cell, go through this, it's like a walkway that's underground, take them through there because the cameras would be shut off after business hours, and then come up in the courtroom in the back in the judge's chambers and abuse them. So that's supposedly what was going on. And there is a court case or a lawsuit going on from some of these female inmates. They're suing the county saying, hey, he did these things. So in the investigation of that, they put a camera in the judge's chambers and they caught on camera Mickey Steins doing what he did to the to the judge, excuse me. And he had that lawsuit over him. And also the mayor had basically told Sheriff Steins, the person who shot the judge, that you have to resign by September 27th, 28th, or 29th, or you will be fired. And this happened right I think a day or two before he was supposed to be fired. But we'll see more information on that as well. Yes.
They're actually waiting for the discovery in this murder case now to see if that will
Pinto brings up that one of the victims has since passed away, and yep, absolutely. Sarah, thank you for being here. I hope you have a good day.
play into this other federal case, sex abuse case.
And in those, I mean, the allegations are not that the sheriff was taking part in all of it, but the sheriff was overseeing the deputy who was accused in all this?
That's very correct. Yeah, I'm really glad that we're making that point. So there's no indication that the sheriff was involved in the sexual misconduct, but he was deposed and brought up into this lawsuit because he was the boss. And also, there is no allegations that the judge had any idea what was going on after hours in his chambers.
All right, Matt Johnson in Kentucky tonight. Big day tomorrow. I know we're going to be speaking tomorrow night as well. Thanks so much, Matt. I want to bring in a special guest joining us by phone tonight, the attorney who represents the woman suing Sheriff Mickey Steins. Ned Pillersdorf is with us. Ned, thanks so much for joining.
I know that's really loud. I'm going to turn it down just a smidge. So this is going to be the attorney representing the female inmate victims in this case. And again, just to be clear, it was not the sheriff, but it was somebody high ranking under him. And that's why he was in trouble as well. Basically, he wasn't providing enough oversight to have caught that this was going on. So that's why he got in trouble for this.
Joining us tonight.
Appreciate you having me.
Let me start here. What are the allegations against Sheriff Mickey Steins in this lawsuit?
The allegation is that Sheriff Steins had a deputy who was also a bailiff who preyed on at least 3 different women in the context of the courthouse. The deputy actually pled guilty to sex crime, and some of the sex crimes were committed in the judge's chambers. Basically, what the bailiff deputy did is he leveraged his position as someone who controlled the ankle monitor program and basically told these women to have them go to jail unless they performed certain sexual acts with them. And this went on for several years.
So I know it's hard to hear him. He said that basically what would happen is that this bailiff or this sheriff who ran the ankle monitor program, and again, the ankle monitor program is going to be like, okay, you know, you went to jail for this drug charge, but you can do half of your time in jail and then we'll let you out for the other half with an ankle monitor on. And you have to take drug classes, you have to pay a fine, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. That's a drug program. Okay. So basically what this sheriff's deputy was doing, who was also a bailiff in the court, was saying, you know, okay, I'm going to take you to jail unless you do this for me, to these women that were on the ankle monitors, because he ran the ankle monitor program. So whether, I don't know if they would have violated, or if he was just doing it just to do it. But basically he said, hey, you can either come in here and do this for me, or I'm going to send your ass back to jail. And that's real messed up. That's real effed up. That man deserves everything that's coming to him. And he stated that he has pled guilty to sex crimes because he absolutely did it. It's really sad that somebody would take, their position of power over these women and use it like that. It's just sick.
We named Sheriff Steins as a deputy in that our theory of the case is that he knew, or certainly should have known, of the predicate conduct of his bailiff deputy, who, as I indicated, pled guilty to at least 3 women lawsuits.
Okay, so Joyce says, so the judge had to know that, right? I'm not sure, because if it happened after dark and there was no camera in there, or if the camera that was in there, if the judge didn't know about it, he might not have known at all. But it's possible that he knew. The reason the sheriff is being sued, because basically the same thing he's saying, either you knew or you didn't know, but you should have known. And that's why the sheriff was brought into the lawsuit. And we don't know as of right now if the sheriff knew and was allowing it to happen, or if he legitimately didn't know and is being sued. Okay, so this is going on, and they have a hearing for it. This is going on a couple of days. I think it was a week before he walked in and shot the judge is when he got hit with the lawsuit, and supposedly found out all this information for the first time. It was a week before he walks in and shoots the judge.
So we filed what's called a civil rights case. It's actually on behalf of one woman, Sabrina Atkins, who said the sex happened in the judge's chambers, and another woman who has since died.
And
real quick, Mary Lou, thank you so much. Mary Lou said Mickey had that job for years before he got promoted. And yes, Mickey Steins was a bailiff for the judge that he shot for years before he got promoted to sheriff. And supposedly his daughter was like an intern under the judge. She was learning from the judge, being tutored by the judge, learning about the profession from the judge, because his daughter comes into play with this.
And let me ask you this: in this lawsuit, were there any developments this week in the lawsuit, or very recently in time, connected to the sheriff?
What happened is Monday, Sheriff Steins was in my law office, and we took his deposition as to what he knew and when he knew it. 3 days later, we had the astonishing news that the sheriff killed the local judge. Yesterday, the civil lawsuit was put on hold.
Okay, so again, he states that they had the deposition in court, and that basically was the sheriff saying whether he knew about the situation or if he didn't know about the situation. And I think he said he didn't know about the situation. 3 days later is when he walks in and shoots the judge.
Hold. So basically, we could try to figure out if any of these two events are connected.
So you're investigating that. How would you describe the sheriff's demeanor that day?
Well, in a sense, it was your typical civil lawsuit where you name a bill. It was tense, wasn't particularly friendly. And the allegations against the sheriff and his department are sweeping. We're basically saying they turned that courthouse into a brothel. What you need to understand is I'm a criminal defense lawyer, and women here in Appalachia, if they're in an ankle monitor situation or a drug court, are really vulnerable to sexual exploitation. They know the person controlling them can make a simple phone call to the judge and they're in jail. So what happened in this particular case is Ben Fields, the deputy who pled guilty, he leveraged that situation, that sex acts, and after we filed the civil lawsuit, and after we showed the Attorney General's office all the sexual text messages between Deputy Fields and with Deputy Fields and my client, they indicted Deputy Fields. And this past January, he pled guilty in his criminal case. So the civil rights case is going on now. And as I've indicated, we took Stein's deposition this past Monday here in my law office in Prestonsburg.
Was that a video deposition?
It was just a regular deposition.
So it's not, I'm wondering if it's recorded on video. Sometimes depositions where I practice in New Jersey, they would record them on video.
So again, just to reiterate, he stated that basically the guy running the drug program would abuse these women, and that because he's running the drug program, he has the ability to just call the judge or the sheriff and say, hey, she violated. And then she goes back to jail, whether she violated or not. You know, he was like, hey, you're going to come in my office and you're going to perform these acts for me, or I'm going to call and tell him you violated. And then she goes back to jail, regardless of whether she actually broke the law or not. That was the leverage he held over her. Definitely somebody who should not have been in a position of power at all. And again, he pled guilty.
Now, this was just transcribed, but I did get a phone call the day after the astonishing shooting that the state police wanted a copy of the deposition. The deposition went on for 4 or 5 hours, and Steins was here in my office for about 8 hours.
And was there any mention of the judge in this deposition?
Peripherally, I'm really uncomfortable talking too much about what was said at the deposition. You know, there's ethical rules about lawyers talking about evidence that might be coming out. In this case, in 2 trials, the civil rights trial and, of course, Mr. Stein's trial. But, you know, clearly as I indicate, this was a sweeping lawsuit we filed. We're basically saying that the sheriff and probably others knew about what Deputy Fields was doing to at least 3 different women, and it went on for a while. So the theme of the deposition, the fairest way to describe it is, what did Sheriff Steins know and when did he know it? And we're talking about a small town courthouse. It's a 1-judge courthouse with a local sheriff in a very small town of Whitesboro, Kentucky.
And just, I want to make this super clear that one of the assaults is taking place in the judge's chambers, but the judge was not named in the lawsuit and the judge was never deposed. Correct.
The judge named the lawsuit. But, you know, one wonders of the timing after this deposition Monday, which it's hard to describe, but after I filed the lawsuit, Ms. Fear, when I was in Letcher Courthouse, changed. They were pretty bold allegations we made.
Okay, so this, actually, I'm going to look it up, but I'm going to look it up to be sure. But okay, so this deposition happened on a Monday, and it was either a Wednesday or Thursday of that week, I do believe, and I'm going to double check that sheriff. Okay, so the sheriff is being deposed and asked questions about, when did you know about this? Did you know about this that your deputy was doing to these ladies? When did you know about it? How long have you known about it? What did you do about it? He's sitting in a lawyer's office being deposed and asked these questions on Monday. On Wednesday or Thursday, he shoots the judge, and we're going to get more information about what happened between him and the judge right before he walked in and shot him. But I mean, you have to ask, is it related? Because I mean, it's a couple of days apart, you know. So that's basically why we're going back over this again.
And, you know, frankly, I was uncomfortable being in that courthouse. In fact, when I asked Judge Mullins to recuse from the criminal case going on against one of these, the lady who was victimized, he certainly hesitated in getting out of the case. And I thought he should have gotten out of the case automatically. And as a result of that atmosphere, I declined to basically practice law in front of Judge Mullins again. He was very reluctant to get out of the lawsuit, and I thought it was automatic, and that the allegations my client had filed in federal court basically alleged the judge was likely a witness. I mean, the sex occurred at least twice, once in his chambers and once in the bathroom in his chambers.
Wow. So you, from your perspective, want to investigate and have time to see if there's any connection here. And it looks like the criminal investigation is looking towards you guys as well to see if there's any connection. So what are your thoughts about when it will become clear what the motivating factor of the shooting was, based on your experience?
There was an interesting court order entered, I think yesterday, that basically all of the parties, including my clients and the sheriff, and we did name Officer Fields, the judge basically said this case is held in abeyance so the parties can figure out if there's any connection between these 2 events. Wow. I don't know. I mean, when the shooting occurred, my first thought was, did this have anything to do with the allegations? You know, there's been some public media reporting that apparently Sheriff Steins made some sort of cryptic comment that this may have had to do something to do with his wife or daughter. I don't know.
So he did make a comment after he was arrested. The only comment he made was, they're trying to kidnap my wife and daughter. And we're going to hear more about that in just a few minutes. I've still tried to find the actual indictment, because the reason I'm bringing it back up is because he was hit with the indictment Friday, I believe, and appeared in court yesterday. And I've been following this case from the beginning. So I wanted to continue to cover it. Trixie, I haven't heard if they've mentioned what happened at lunch prior to the shooting. But talking about that, the sheriff and the judge were seen together in the local diner having lunch before this happened. Sheriff Mickey Steins asked Judge Mullins a question. Judge Mullins said, "Do you want to continue talking about this in my chambers?" And the sheriff said yes. And then they go to the chambers after lunch and he shoots him. So that's what that's about. But we're going to hear about it in just a minute as well.
But one wonders, 3 days after we took this deposition, which the allegations are, from our perspective, serious.
So again, he took the deposition about the sexual misconduct in the courthouse. 3 days later, he shoots the judge.
In fairness to the defendants, they deny the allegations. 3 days later, you have this astonishing event. Have we ever had a sheriff before kill a judge in the courthouse? I mean, this sounds like a John Grisham thing.
It does. I'm trying to rack my brain to see. I've had sheriffs go after other sheriffs years ago in Georgia, but it was more of a political thing. This would be much, much different. Let me ask you, Ned, because you're a criminal defense attorney as well in Kentucky. We're all getting ready for this first appearance that's happening tomorrow. What should we expect to hear? What should we expect to learn at this first appearance?
What will happen is Sheriff Steins will likely ask for what's called a preliminary hearing. And because he's in custody, that'll have to happen within 10 days unless he waives the time. The case has been transferred out of the county to a place called Carter County, which is actually about an hour and a half away. And they've already appointed the local Carter County judge. So it's far away. The local clerk's office obviously recused themselves. The prosecutor recused, and there is no judge in Letcher County today. So Sheriff Steins, has a right to what's called a preliminary hearing. Those are generally held within 10 days. Or what could happen is they could immediately go to the Letcher grand jury, which, given the nature of the case, might be problematic, and seek an indictment, which would prevent the preliminary hearing. But in the real world of practicing criminal law, preliminary hearings, that's where you'll learn a lot about the case. And there certainly is a lot of interest. And certainly if I was representing Sheriff Steins, which I obviously can't due to the conflict, I would want a preliminary hearing to hear what the evidence is against it.
And we're going to watch the preliminary hearing, or, at least part of it. It wasn't that long. And a lot of people had issues with the guy that was testifying. I, however, saw something else in his testimony, and we'll talk about that.
And there's certainly a whole bunch of people in Appalachia who are shocked and, I would say, traumatized by all of this.
Yeah, I think you described it right. I don't know if we've ever heard of this fact scenario in decades of covering trials here at Court TV. And so one final question before you go. Sheriff Steins, it seems like and this is someone who knows what's going to happen when you fire your weapon and take the life of a judge. Do you suspect that there's a chance that he could just, not in his first appearance, but just plead guilty?
No, that won't happen. I'm sure that won't happen.
Okay.
No, if you believe what's been reported in the media, apparently they looked at each other's cell phones, and that apparently, pardon the pun, was the triggering event. And I understand there's a video of that, no audio, but frankly, he couldn't plead guilty this tomorrow if he wanted to. He's the way it works in Kentucky. You're charged with a felony and you're in district court. And if he gets indicted, it would be in circuit court.
Then it goes to the
So what will
circuit.
happen tomorrow, the judge will automatically enter a not guilty plea, and there'll be an inquiry as to whether or not he wants a preliminary hearing. And I suspect he will.
Ned Pillersdorf, we're going to be calling you a lot on this case. I hope you'll come back and join us.
I appreciate you having me.
All right. Thanks so much. Wow. A lot of information there. All right. When we come back, we're going to bring in our think tank, get their reaction to everything that's happening in Kentucky, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigate.
Okay, so Rubber, this was I'm going back over the old stuff. He did go into court yesterday, I think, just long enough to plead not guilty. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. That's what I'm kind of coming back to. I just want to refresh you guys on all of this first.
In the chambers that he needed to speak with the judge in private.
Okay, hold
And
on.
the door.
There we go.
Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
The sheriff walked in and asked whoever was in the chambers that he needed to speak with the judge in private, and the doors were closed.
And they couldn't hear any other conversation after that, even that there was conversation.
No, the next thing they heard is gunshots.
So that's from somebody in the courthouse stating that they heard one of the between the sheriff and the judge, they heard them talking, and then one of them said to the other one, "Let's go talk in private." They go in the judge's chamber, shut the door, and the next thing they hear is gunshots. Pew pew shots, excuse me. Hey, hello, Kitty, and thank you so much for being here.
All this after looking at the judge's phone. That's when the gun was fired. After looking at the judge's phone, then he put it down, and then the gunfire started, and the judge was killed. So what's this all about? What happened here? Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, trial attorney, fellow of the American College.
Okay. I don't want to go through the rest of it. You guys can watch the rest of that if you want to, because it's older. And so we can go over the preliminary hearing and some more information on it this way. Trying to figure out. I think the preliminary. So we'll watch the video next. We'll do this one. Hello Kitty said that they hit the thumbs up on the way in. And if you guys don't mind, please fist bump that thumbs up button for me. I'd really appreciate it. So this again is going to be an older one that we'll watch real quick, where he's going to deep dive it so you get more information on it.
Dan, the subject of my investigation is the shooting of Kentucky Judge Kevin Mullins. This case has raised a lot of questions.
This is an older one. Actually, we can go. I apologize. He's got a longer one, and it's more recent. So we'll do that one. I apologize for doing that to y'all. Should have. So we'll just go here. It'll probably go over everything so far. This one was made 1 month ago.
Sheriff Mickey Steins was literally caught on camera committing the alleged crime. This is direct evidence. This is not a circumstantial case. This is direct evidence of what he's accused of doing. It is caught on video. So what is the sheriff's defense? I am going to break it all down because his attorney is speaking, but I think it goes beyond what the attorney is saying. The truth may lie a little deeper in what this.
I'm going to skip it ahead a little bit. Okay.
It's like fire water, but it gets the job done. I'm going to do a double shot. I'm going to do a double shot to make sure I can last the hour. Okay. I've got a backup over here. I got some mango
This
juice.
isn't the right one either. We'll go back.
But I'm definitely trending down, not trending up on the blood sugar,
Okay.
which is not great.
I thought that was a court TV one, so we'll continue with the first one I had up. I apologize again. Let me skip it ahead to where we was at. Hold on just a minute. Right here. All right.
Kentucky, as everyone tries to figure out why the local sheriff would shoot the local judge. Here's the story.
This is the town of Whitesburg in Letcher County, Kentucky. It's a place where folks get to know each other because there just aren't a ton of people living here. That community is even...
Right, y'all were saying WTF, Vinny. Vinny, calm down. What the hell is he drinking? Some kind of energy shot, I suppose. But that was like not what I wanted to see, really. I was like, but that's just the one of him talking about it. I want to play videos for you guys, so that's why I went back. I apologize about that. I'm trying to get everything ready for this craft fair where I sell my naturals and all of that stuff. And it's Saturday, and I didn't realize it was like that close. And I have Thanksgiving, so I didn't have time to get everything in order today. Again, I apologize. So this is an older one too, but it's going to give us more information.
even smaller in the local criminal justice system, where everyone knows everyone. That's why no one suspected anything violent or dangerous was going to happen when the local judge, Kevin Mullins, and the sheriff, Mickey Steins, had a closed-door private meeting inside the judge's chambers. But what happened next, no one in this small town expected. The sheriff asking the judge for his phone, then making a call to his teenage daughter, whose number was already in the judge's phone. Then
So that's important, okay? So we know by looking at the video camera footage, which you're going to see, the sheriff goes in and talks to the judge. The sheriff tried to call his daughter from his phone. Supposedly, rumor has it she didn't answer. And then he tried to call her from the judge's phone. And supposedly she didn't answer that way, or she might have. One of the possible motives is that he saw his daughter's number saved in the judge's phone, or the contact picture that the judge had for his daughter in the phone broke his heart. So you would say, what would make a man do that? Well, let me tell you what. If let's put ourselves in his shoes for a second, real quick. Trixie said Vinny has diabetes, so he drinks stuff for his blood sugar and takes glucose pills. So it probably has something to do with that. Thank you for that information. So real quick, if I am putting myself in Judge Stein's position, okay, I have a 17-year-old daughter. She is doing really good in school. She's studying, she wants to be a judge. She wants to be a lawyer. So she's mentoring under the same judge that I had been a bailiff for X amount of years. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is the perfect person to mentor you, so that you can have some of this education under your belt when you go to college and things like that. It's good for your credentials and things like that, et cetera, et cetera. Well, then I hear some rumors. Something's going on with the SMEC scandal. I'm stressed out about that. I'm looking more into it. And then, allegedly speculating, let's say that I have a suspicion that something might be going on, something else might be going on in the judge's chamber. So I hear a rumor, or, whatever. And I talk to the judge and I'm like, hey, I need to talk to you about some things. I've got some questions. And he's like, okay, let's go talk privately. And I go in the judge's chambers and I'm like, I've heard that there's things going on, and I just need to know, man to man, have you done anything with my daughter? What if the judge said, well, yes, I have. I might shoot him, or he says, no, I haven't. And I try to call my daughter from my phone and she won't answer. And then I pick up his phone and I try to call her and she does answer. Or I pick up his phone and I try to call her and I see the contact picture for her, and it's something like her in a bikini, or her, in some kind of provocative pose. I might get mad enough to shoot this judge, okay? And I've stated before, it has something to do with his wife or his daughter. Now, if I'm looking at it as, I'm in his shoes and it's my wife, I might really love my wife, but am I going to go to prison for unaliving somebody over my wife? Well, maybe. It's possible, obviously. But I would think that you would just be mad at her and get a divorce. Like, I don't think that you would risk knowing what's going to happen to you because you are the sheriff. You know what the time carries for this charge. You know what's going to happen. Would you do that for her? I personally wouldn't. I would get a divorce. But for my child, yes, absolutely, 100%. But, you know, either way, and these are just theories and speculations of possible motives, okay? So that's what I think about that. Hey, Overprotected, we have been summoning you. So I'm glad to see you here. So those are all things that, you know, I've thought about during this case, and I just wanted to bring up since he started talking about the daughter and the judge's connections.
The sheriff shot and killed the judge. All of it was recorded on video. Sheriff Mickey Steins is now charged with first-degree murder after surrendering himself immediately afterwards and telling officers, quote, "They were trying to kidnap my wife and my kid." And now, even with all this information, many are still wondering why the judge was shot and killed.
So after he got arrested, after he shot the judge, he went and set his gun down in the courtroom and went in willingly. Supposedly, the only thing he said was they're trying to kidnap my wife and daughter. Okay, let's go down that road. Let's say there's a bunch of corruption going on. The FBI is coming in to investigate because of the lawsuit about the guy that was sleeping with the inmates. Okay. And they've got this stuff in the background going on, allegedly speculating. Let's just say there's a lot of money going around in this town, maybe some rugs, maybe there's some literal bodies in the ground, okay? And the judge knows about it, the sheriff knows about it, et cetera, et cetera. The FBI is coming in to do audits. They're looking into the town. And the sheriff has some information, and the judge is like, you know, either you're going to say you did X, Y, and Z, or I'm going to kidnap your wife and daughter. And the sheriff is like, but I didn't do X, Y, and Z. And the judge is like, I don't care. You can either do that, or I'm going to kidnap your wife and daughter. Or you're going to take the fall for all this, and I'm going to kidnap your wife and daughter. And if he feels boxed in and know that they can do that, then that's another possible motive. Just going over motives here.
That is the question. That's what the case is about. That's what the trial will be about. And that's what everyone wants to know and to understand. You know, why would he do this? Now, in the preliminary hearing, the video, a truncated portion of the video of the two men in the judge's chambers was played, but it was played on a screen. It was on an angle. The color was off. The perception was really off on what you could see. Well, now we have a clean version of that video. So I'm about to show it to you. Now, a couple things about the video. We're not going to show you the gun actually firing. So the video will freeze at 3 different points, and it'll be obvious to you, but that's the moment when the gun is discharged. So the video freezes, that's when the gun is actually being fired. Once we freeze it, we go past those couple frames of the firing of the weapon, and then the video will continue. So you understand what you're about to see. A couple of things from this video that you need to understand. Like, they're in this closed door meeting together, and these are guys who know each other. They're not strangers at all. This is small town America and Appalachia. And these are guys who know each other. These are guys who are seemingly friendly to one another. So at the moment all this is happening, this has to be an absolute shock to the judge. So let's take a look now at this video. There's no audio. There's no audio recorded. It was just a video camera that was in the judge's chambers. And as we watch it, you can see, and right there is when the gun is fired for the first time. And then he walks around to the left side, the judge literally trying to get cover in the corner. And once again, the gun is fired a second time. Now you can see the judge is crawling under the table. is still alive, and then he crouches down and fires the gun for a third round of shots.
Now you can see that this man is angry. Like, he's going around and he's like, no, not today. This is it for you. It's done. It's over. Like, what would make a man that angry to do that? You just saw the video of how it went down. We've since learned that somebody was calling back on the phone. So was it his daughter returning the judge's phone call? Right on the table by the black book bag, I don't know if you can see on the other side of the papers, there is a phone, and they zoomed in and that phone was actually ringing while this happened. But going back to the shoot, I mean, you saw how he chased him basically under that table and around that room and to make sure he was deceased. So why did he shoot him? Maybe the judge knew some information that the sheriff didn't want out, and so he did it. Who knows? The motive still has not been made clear.
Now you know why the reaction was what it was inside that courtroom from the judge's family. The wails that we heard coming from, because they saw it. They saw it without the video pausing and stopping. But these are two men in a situation. We don't have any audio. We don't know what they're saying. We don't know the conversation. So that brings me to my first question of this investigation. Since we don't have the audio, what does their body language reveal? Two men who know each other in this.
Trixie said, I think it's the sheriff who was doing shady stuff. Why would the judge want to talk in his office if it was him when he knew there was a camera? That's a good point, but what if the judge didn't even know there was a camera? I don't know who put the camera there. Like, what if it was a hidden camera with the FBI or something and he didn't know it was there? Or if the judge knew it was there, then yeah, that's a good point. There's so many questions in this case. Either way, somebody was involved in some things, or really, yeah, either way, somebody was involved in some things and somebody got mad about it, and it's all questionable. And to this day, we still don't have a motive. He has been indicted for unaliving the judge and pled not guilty, but that's the new update that I have, and we'll watch some more information about that. Hey, Abelis, thank you so much for being here, lovely.
Closed space. What are we taking away from their body language in this moment? Because we cannot hear anything because there's no audio recording of it. Joining me to work through this, body language expert, New York Times bestselling author of You Can't Lie to Me, Janine Driver. Janine, thank you so much for being here. This is a huge story with a huge question of why, which hasn't been answered. But what I want to understand a little bit better is what's happening between these two men during these fatal moments in the judge's life. So we broke it down into three different sections. So let's start by taking a look at the first section. And as we watch it, just tell me what you're noticing, what you're seeing, what you think is important, and what it means. So let's get to that first piece. Just tell me what you're seeing, Janine.
Right now. Okay, go. So that step back, sorry about that, Benny, and you at home. That step back, that's called psychological distancing. As a matter of fact, he takes 3 steps back to stir up. And this is cognitive preparation. It's preparing the shooter here, the stir up mentally, and it's helping us gain control of our emotions. I want you to think about something, Benny, and you at home.
She's talking about, he's not being able to control his emotions, right? So what made him so mad to do something like that? Like, he knew, he walked in there and was intending to talk to the man. He had his service weapon. He did what he did, and then he immediately turned himself in. So what made him that angry to do something like that? Jenny Jen said, what if the judge didn't expect it to go that way? Maybe to get a little violent, but not for him to do that. And Yeah, I think that's very possible too. I think that's why he said to talk in his chambers, because he knew the conversation wasn't going to be a good one. But I don't think that he meant for it, that he thought it would end that way. And again, like, what made the sheriff so angry, so emotionally distressed that he felt like he had to do that, is the question everybody has.
I'm here, and you and I are in an argument, Penny, right? This happens with cops all the time. We're in an argument. I'm the daughter of Lorraine, a nurse for elderly homeless people who passed 11 years ago, and the daughter of an auto mechanic who fixes fire trucks. I'm the mother of 3 sons. When I'm in your face, I'm still Janine. This 3 steps back, Vinny and you at home, is psychological distancing. Janine's not going to shoot you, but all of a sudden we get this distance from our emotions. This is bracing us for impact. It creates what's called a mental buffer. And it decreases our emotional connection to the aggression. So I say, when there's a move back, get ready for an attack. So when there's a move back, you get ready for an attack. It's a pre-assault indicator. He also, look at right here, you at home. He's blading his body. These are pre-assault indicators. I do an all-day class for law enforcement on this, and for school systems on how to be prepared for attacks. So we have him blading his body. He's also kind of rocking back and forth a little bit. Look at this. You see it from his left to his right. This is in my world called evaluating. So we've got the rock, the blade of the body, and then step back. Vinny, I don't know if you remember a couple of years back now, probably like a decade, there was a school in Florida where the guy his wife gets fired. He spray paints a B on the wall at a school board meeting, puts a circle around it. He eventually shoots at the men on the school board, but he's raised.
True Crime Addict said, in my opinion, it may have something to do with his daughter. Yeah. So again, if he did try to call his daughter from the phone and there was some kind of provocative thing going on, or he, figured out that something was going on that shouldn't have been going on, I mean, I would have that reaction over my child. I think most of us would. Because I mean, the thing is, he's the sheriff. He knows what's going to happen,
He's right up in front of them. He's on top of them. He could have shot while he was there. He doesn't shoot until he's about 20 feet away. Why?
As far as, like, he knows what's going to happen, as far as the time he's going to do, he's going to go to prison, all of those things. He knows that and still decides to shoot this man. It's got to be something real serious, like his child. Or if he thought he was going to jail regardless, there's lots of possible motives here.
This psychological distancing. So that's what we're seeing here. When there's a move back, get ready for an attack.
And how about from the judge in these moments?
In the judge, what you see here, Vinny, and you at home, is you see this like hand up, and you might be thinking, well, this is ridiculous. The guy has a gun. This is a primal instinct. It's a survival instinct. It increases our alertness. Our heartbeat goes up in this moment. Adrenaline is flooding the body. And here's what's happening. It's a built-in system in our body, Vinny, and you at home, to have this defense system. Whether it's a knife or someone to come punch you in the face, the hands up, it's part of the fight or flight, the brain's alarm system. This is an ancient automatic system, even though, by the way, he could put the cigarette down, but you're not thinking straight in fight or flight unless you've been prepared. When I worked for ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, they had us every year do a pre-assault indicator course. If someone has a gun in front of me, what do I do? I'm waiting for a distraction or a gap. Before I do, I always turn in the same direction. We're constantly being prepared in law enforcement. This judge clearly was not prepared. If he was, he would not have had one hand down with the cigarette. The fight or flight system kicks in, this brain's alarm system. The amygdala, which deals with fear, is sending a message to protect what? Our head, our eyes, our brain. Even though it might seem silly, I promise you, if you ever feel under attack, your hands come up and they will literally, I remember my boyfriend told the story.
Bellis asked, did the footage have sound? No, this footage does not have sound. This footage is from about 2 months ago. It was in the judge's chambers. I don't know if either one of them knew that camera was there. It's put in there. I think it's without sound because, like, they have private discussions about court cases in the judge's chambers. When they say we need to go to my chambers and talk about this, the attorneys will go in there and it's supposed to be a private conversation. That's why they don't have it in the courtroom. And if you're trying to get video footage of of the deputy abusing women, like you don't need sound for that. Like you can see what's going on. Basically, if they were trying to catch him on camera in the act of taking these female inmates into the judge's chambers and doing these things, they don't necessarily need sound for that. So it doesn't have sound, but I think they were trying to get them. What I personally think is they were trying to get the bailiff on camera abusing the women, and they caught this as well.
The story about he got in a car accident and the guy came out ready to smash his face in. My boyfriend just put his hands up calmly and slowly brought them down. And as he began to bring them down, the man's energy calmed down. He snapped back into like being present. So the judge is doing everything right. You do not want to stand up in this situation. You might be saying, well, maybe you should stand up. That would be considered a threat to the gunman. You do not, you want to use calm words, calm tones, unlike we saw in the school system where the guy started the school.
What's also interesting in what you said is that he wasn't expecting it. We haven't seen.
I just dropped the StreamYard link if anybody wants to come up.
The build up to this, the rest of the video and what the conversation was like, and if he was totally taken by the fact that the sheriff was now getting deadly. We've got two more to get through, so let's get to the second one. And as we watch it, you tell me what you're seeing.
All right, now this is really interesting because now we see the sheriff chasing down the victim here. We see him chasing them down. This is fascinating to me because this is real. He wants to make sure he's finishing the job. As a matter of fact, at the very end, you see, and I don't know if you're going to play, but you see that he does one final shot low right here. Again, we see the judge doing what? Protecting his back of his head. This is primal. The amygdala is firing off, saying we need to protect this very vulnerable area, the back of our neck. But the sheriff with his outreached hand, this is interesting. He is saying to me, I'm not feeling threatened by this judge. I don't think the judge has a gun underneath his desk or a knife. I'm feeling safe enough to hunt him down in this office space. In these moments, our job is to escape as fast as possible. So if I was the judge here, what would I do? I would take that desk and throw that desk as far as I could on that guy. My father taught me a long time ago, he worked for the fire department, an escape is a chair through a window. Like we need to change the way we think of things. That desk should have 100% been over, pushing him. This is the perfect opportunity. The desk is between who? The victim and the door. Push that desk away from the shooter. Your job is to get out that door and get your safety. So, but he's shot at this point.
Right.
So he's injured. He's probably not thinking straight.
All right, let's get to the final part of the video, which again, you mentioned. Let's take a look at it. And this is as he comes back around the desk.
So right here, what we see, and you know, if this is a sad thing to say, but a lot of people who are in live shootings report they
watch as he opens the door. He turns around one more time just to make sure this judge is deceased and shoots him one more time. Like that is some kind of hostility right there.
They play dead. And right here, we don't see that. We actually see the desk moving. And I think that the shooter, and I don't know, I'm not in his head, but I think he noticed in the corner of his eye, he's getting ready to leave. We face our belly button in the direction we want to head, Vinny. He is out of here. He's out the door. I call this the belly button rule or naval intelligence. So he's out the door, but that tiny little movement he sees, he goes and does that one final shot that we see stopping just before it hits. So in these situations, what can you do to keep yourself safe, protected from the shooter in those moments? And guess what? You need to think about these types of things, sadly, in advance today, because there are active shooters in our buildings more often than we might want.
But I can't imagine that the judge in any way, shape, or form expected any of this to happen. The sheriff is the man who protects him in the courthouse. That's part of his job, his responsibility, and his duties. And they're not strangers. They know each other. Now, we don't know what they were talking about in the buildup to all of this, but from everything we see there, the judge initially seemed somewhat comfortable behind his desk, and then everything changed. So it must have changed very quickly and almost like on the dime from some sort of a conversation to a situation.
I would love to know what they were saying. Body language wise for the judge, I'm not seeing aggression. His lips aren't disappearing. When we don't like what we see or hear, our lips disappear. His chin is not up, which is like, I'm ready to fight you. The judge doesn't stand up. The judge is doing everything right. If I were to change one thing, had he been mentally prepared, which clearly he wasn't, would have been to throw that desk, get away as fast as possible. He did his best hiding underneath the desk. The fact that the sheriff was out, he was hunting. He was hunting.
Yeah, there is a lot more to this case, and we still don't know a lot about it. Okay. Abella says, I don't know much about this case, but could the judge have been abusing or thought to be abusing the sheriff's daughter? Yeah. Or something like that. He's enraged here. Yes, that's what we were talking about. Supposedly, there was a phone call made from the sheriff's phone, and then he picks up the judge's phone and makes a phone call as well. And supposedly that was to his daughter, who the judge was mentoring, his 17-year-old daughter. I'll try to pull up the video of her in a minute after we watch this.
Hunting right here.
Janine Driver, thank you so much for giving us some insight into a video. This is when you really need body language, when you have a video with zero audio. Thank you so much. Coming up next, we're going to continue here. What else does the video reveal?
I apologize. I had to mute that. See, this is back when the Sarah Boone trial was going on, but I'm bringing it back up because of the new information. All right, we're about to hear about the relation between the wives, I do believe.
On Court TV.
We have always got along. I always thought he was hilarious. I always thought he was very witty. He was fun to be around outside of court. And as a brother-in-law, I will never forget how kind he was to my children. It seemed that he had maybe endless patience for kids. I was shocked.
So that man and the judge that you're seeing on your screen here, and that man that was wearing the white shirt that was just speaking, they married sisters. And that man in the white shirt is the district attorney. So there's a set of sisters. One married the judge, one married the district attorney. That's why he referenced him as a brother-in-law.
I was shocked and hurt at the same time, man. I hate to say where Kevin go because he helped a lot of people out. Sure did. You know?
I would compare it to how I felt when the planes hit the towers in New York. You know, that was that shock. He wanted to help people, and he spent most of his career doing that, especially in the drug rehab program.
We've heard so many nice things about Judge Kevin Mullins from Locals, and the same was said about Sheriff Mickey Steins. This makes all of this so confusing as to why the sheriff would do it. So we took a look at the body language from the video. I want you to take another look at the video because there's a lot that we see here that we didn't see when the video was shown in court. There's a lot more happening. The room seems a little bit larger than it did, but when you're looking for evidence and you're trying to figure out what happened, and you have a video of the alleged murder, you've got to examine all the evidence, which brings me to my next question, and it's concerning the video, which is, what else does the video reveal? What else do we see in here? What can it tell us? What questions does it raise? This is the alleged crime scene. This is it. Joining me, retired police commander, author of the book Deceived, and I talk about that because if you go out and buy this book, folks, that money is being donated. So check it out. And he, of course, is the host of the Profiling Evil podcast. Mike King is with us. Mike, thanks so much. I want to go through this video in a couple different pieces, and I want to begin here as we take a look at the video because there was something that really stood out to all of us, the whole team here at VPI. Let's roll that video if we can. And as we watch the video, I also have my eye on the desk here. And what's
Watch this phone right here.
Going on the desk. And this is as he's about to exit. If you look in the middle.
You see the phone is ringing right here. And somebody called back as he was heading out the door. So if we go with the theory of it had something to do with his daughter, then we have to question, did his daughter call back? Did the sheriff hear the phone ring, look at the phone, see the number or the contact picture or name? And is that why he turned around and shot him again? Like, oh, you mother, and then turned around and like, yeah, I'm just going to make sure you're dead for what you did, to my daughter or, whatever. It's interesting that the phone rings.
You can see a phone on the desk. And as the desk is being turned, what happens? It looks like someone is calling at that moment just before the final gunshots as the sheriff exits that room. Mike King, from everything we've heard, that phone seems to be the key to unlocking a lot in this case.
Boy, I agree, Vinny. And like you, that really caught my attention. Number one, we know that from testimony in court that there was a phone call made prior to the shooting, and they have identified that happened to be tied to the sheriff's daughter. The interesting thing to me was that a call of warning that my dad's coming down to do something crazy, or was it just that in the heat of the moment, that person calls back and says, what on earth is going on? But that thing is big, wondering what's on that phone, and the forensics on the phone are going to be really important. There are so many other things in this room that really caught my attention as part of this whole thing unfolds. And I'm going to hold off in case we're going to talk about those one by one.
Well, let's start here. Let's start in the beginning of the shooting, when the sheriff first stands up. Before he points the gun at the sheriff, that gun is already in his right hand as he stands up. So I'm trying to understand, right? Because the way it was described, they're both seated, and then the sheriff gets up, and it seems like very quickly he has the gun in his hand. To me, that's significant when you try to get inside the mind of the sheriff.
Yeah, although you do train on how to get that weapon out of the holster.
So they were sitting down talking to each other. What did the judge say that upset the sheriff so much that while sitting down, he unholstered his weapon and has it in his hand when he stands up?
In a quick manner, but with this shirt and kind of the unkempt way that the sheriff is dressed, he clearly would have had to have pulled his shirt up. So it makes you wonder if he did that sitting down, and if that's something that could really lean toward premeditation of at least pulling that weapon. Or frankly, Vinny, you train hard, and when you go to use a weapon, you don't think anymore. It's all muscle movement, and pulling that weapon out is a pretty fast motion in and of itself. Now, it's not the old Wild West gun drawing and snapping the hammer on the gun back, but it is a motor motion that you have practiced over and again. And so as I look at it like you, I think, now this weapon was probably pulled before he stood up. And if he is sitting right across the desk from that judge and that black backpack, he's got a lot of stuff to conceal any kind of movement along those lines as he prepares for that.
Right. And let's take a look at the video now, focusing on the backpack. But there's actually more than one backpack or case on the desk. And I'm wondering whose they are, what's inside, and what could be gleaned from any of it. I like your angle, though, talking about how it sort of obscures the judge from what the sheriff may or may not be doing with his right hand as he is seated. But I also want to know what's in those backpacks. Whose are they? Why are they on the desk? And everything looks a little messy at this moment inside a judge's chambers.
Yeah, I agree. And if they've just come back from lunch and they both are walking around with their backpacks, maybe it explains why the sheriff can walk into the building and he has a shirt on that maybe they can see that he's not.
But the black backpack was unzipped and there was papers hanging out of it, which I've never noticed before. Look at the black backpack again. Let me take it back just a smidge. Do you see right here? It's unzipped and there's papers hanging out of it. So could that be a key in this case? Like that it's unzipped and you could see papers clearly hanging out of it. Did he sit down, open his book bag and pull some paperwork out? Because that's that white part right there. That's interesting.
And everything looks a little messy at this moment inside a judge's chambers.
Yeah, I agree. And if they've just come back from lunch and they both are walking around with their backpacks, maybe it explains why the sheriff can walk into the building and he has a shirt on that maybe they can see that he's not packing a gun. There's the little side on that black backpack is open a little bit. So it makes me wonder, is the weapon secured inside of there, or did he really pull it off of his hip? But then that brown backpack, it really caused me to draw my attention to that willed unit on the ground right next to the judge's left foot. And I wondered, is that all part of a system that he was pulling his luggage along with in that little thing? It's a little kind of a like a roller bag, or is he got a leg injury and he's using that because he's got one leg in a cast. There's so much we don't know, and so many little pieces in this thing that keep saying, well, why is that there? What's the square box on the ground? Is it part of an electrical unit, or is it something that's fallen off of the desk? And why did it end up there before a gun gets pulled? All these things just make you crazy wanting to answer them.
Absolutely. Mike King, appreciate your insight.
Okay, I'm going to pull up the sheriff, the sheriff's daughter, because there's a video of her from Inside Edition where she's singing in the back of his car.
Sheriff Mickey Steins was.
It's several years old. I've got to refresh this page because I just found it. And then we'll hear the preliminary hearing, and I can talk to you guys about that. And then we'll go over the new information. Hold on just a minute. Let me give it just a second to load. Oh, bad girl. Thank you for listening, love.
Double shot. I'm going to do a double shot to make sure I can last the hour.
I hope he gets his diabetes taken care of, or, keeps it under control. I hate that he's having to deal with that. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So this is the short video of his daughter singing in the back.
Has the motive finally been revealed as to why this sheriff fatally shot a judge?
Pause. Okay. This is Inside Edition, and it's going to show his daughter singing in the back of his cop car. And then we'll go over the preliminary hearing that took place a couple of months ago, and then we'll go over the new information.
Has the motive finally been revealed as to why this sheriff fatally shot a judge in cold blood? Video of the shocking shooting was just played in court. Most of it is too graphic to show, but you can see the sheriff firing at the judge multiple times. Relatives of the Kentucky judge could be heard sobbing.
The cries and the wails that you heard once they saw what was happening with the judge in the corner trying to protect himself. I can't imagine what his family went through.
Now in bombshell testimony, a police officer is revealing there was a dispute between Judge Kevin Mullins and the Kentucky sheriff, Sean Mickey Steins.
We're going to watch that testimony next.
Involving the sheriff's teenage daughter. This lip-syncing video of the sheriff and his daughter shows them goofing around as she sits on the back of his police car. Their choice of songs, of all things, I Shot the Sheriff. The police officer.
So in that one, it blocked her face out, but that's her. You'll get to see her at the preliminary hearing. So we'll go ahead and go to that.
All right. Florida District Court's now in session with the Honorable Rupert Malloy. Thank you, sir. You may be seated. I'm going to call the case of Commonwealth versus Sean Steins, 24F-147. All right.
So she's wearing black, and she has black hair, and she's sitting behind Mickey Steins. Mickey Steins is in the blue jumpsuit. And so we will watch this preliminary hearing. Zio, you're not blocked, love.
Oregon District Court's now in session with the Honorable Rupert Floyd. Thank you, sir. You may be seated.
Right here, that's his daughter. I do believe. Hey, Basil. All right.
We'll call the case of Commonwealth versus Sean Steins, 24F-147. On for.
So this is the first hearing. This isn't the new one. But I wanted to talk to you guys about this testimony real quick that we hear from the person who testifies. Zio, I don't know why your messages were dropping. People have been saying that's happening. I'm sorry.
For preliminary hearing, is the Commonwealth ready? Yes, Your Honor. Is the defense ready? Yes, Your Honor. All right, call your first witness. Oh, Clayton Stanford. All right, Mr. Stanford, if you would raise your right hand for me. You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes, sir, I do. Thank you. You may be seated.
You state your name for the record, please.
Clayton Stanford.
And how do you spell your name?
ClaytonStamper.
Tell the court how you're employed.
I'm sorry.
How are you employed?
I'm a detective with the Kentucky State Police assigned to Post 13 Hazard.
How long have you been employed in that capacity?
I've been with KSP a little over 24 years, detective since 2006.
And have you, in the performance of duties as detective police, have you investigated the death of Kevin Mullins?
Yes, sir. I did.
And
that is crazy overprotected. That's very interesting. Jenny says YouTube feels like we know too much. This chat, we know too much, so they're deleting them.
Can you tell us on what date that was?
It was September 19th, 2024.
In investigation of that death, were you able to determine who killed Kevin Mullins?
Yes.
And how were you able to do that?
Video surveillance footage.
And did you retrieve the video surveillance footage?
I did.
Here at this time, we'll do come move to play video footage.
All right.
Sure, I will object. Approach.
Yes, approach the bench.
All right. They object to this video being played and it's overruled, and they do play the video. I'm going to try to skip it through the video playing because it's kind of bad. You hear the family crying. We've already seen the video. Oh, no, they're talking. See, they went to the judge's chambers from what I am seeing. Hold on. Okay, I think we're back in court.
You ready to proceed? Go through. All right.
Skip it ahead a little. They're watching the video.
And were you able to identify the party that we saw in that video?
That was Sheriff Mickey Steins and Judge Kevin Mullins.
And also, who had the firearm?
Sheriff Steins.
And then Judge was also in his black robe.
Yes.
Do you know what portion of the courthouse that is?
That is the judge's chambers.
And where's that located at, physically located?
In the Letcher County Courthouse.
It's all happening.
Like cross-examine witness?
Would you?
All right, this is where it's going to get into some interesting information. A lot of people had questions when I covered this the first time, and I wanted to talk about that with you guys. Hey, Bama Cat, and thank you so much for being here.
That was a short clip that was played there. How long do you believe that clip was?
That we just watched?
Yes, sir.
Just 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
15 seconds. In fact, the video that was taken in the judge's chambers between the meeting between Sheriff Steins and Judge Mullins, it's my understanding that video lasted much longer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to review the video
I have.
of the prior incident?
I have.
And can you describe for us what happened immediately prior to the clip that we saw?
So basically what they're saying is that the video clip is a lot longer. All we're seeing is the 10 to 15 second clip that we just were looking at and breaking down, where he stands up, he shoots the judge, he walks around the table and continues to shoot him. That's what they're referencing. And we're finding out from this man that's testifying, the clip is actually a lot longer. And he was just asked, had he had time to review the whole clip? And he's saying, yes, he has. And Sheriff Mickey Steins is asking him what was in the clip. So this is the guy, the person asking him questions is on the side of the sheriff. He's representing the sheriff.
Sheriff Steins uses his telephone to make some phone calls. He then borrows Judge Mullins' cell phone and appears to make a call on that. And that led to what you just saw.
So going back to what True Crime Addict, I think it's True Crime. Going back to what True Crime said, if he used the phone, if let's say he tried to call his daughter, okay, he tried. I apologize. I think her name is True Crime Addict. I call her True Crime. She thinks it has something to do with the daughter, and he just stated that what happened was Sheriff Steins tried to make some phone calls from his phone. Then he picks up the judge's phone and tries to make some phone calls. And what he just said was that led to the unaliving. So who is he trying to call? Well, who would you call? And what situation would get you so upset that you'd be willing to kill a man? And again, I have to say his daughter. His daughter was in a mentorship under the judge.
Okay. So it's my understanding there were some people who were having a meeting with Judge Mullins prior to the sheriff's entry into the chambers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you identified those witnesses?
I don't know the names of them. There's about approximately 4 people in there. Then Sheriff Steins enters the judge's chambers and everybody else clears out.
You don't know their names?
Not right off, no.
Have you prepared a report?
In the process, yes.
You're in the process of preparing a report?
Yes, a lot of information.
But you've not spoken to any of those witnesses?
I'm not directly, but they've all been interviewed. There's recorded interviews of those people in the case.
Okay, so other officers have spoken with those 4 witnesses?
Yes.
And what is your understanding of what those 4 witnesses have said?
I don't recall.
You have no idea what they said?
No.
So he's saying there's witnesses to the judge and the sheriff right before it happened, from the diner, in the courtroom. And he's asking the man, have they been interviewed? He said, yes, he had some deputies under him interview him, but he has not interviewed him. And it's kind of leading up to what I want to talk about.
I want to make sure I understand. Had there been a hearing previously this day in chambers?
In the courtroom?
No, in chambers.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And so there's a video camera that is running in the district judge's chambers. Is that?
Bama Cat, the documents have not been released yet. I know he got indicted and I've been trying to get the documents, but in Kentucky, you have to go and personally request the documents to get them. So I haven't got the indictment yet, but I'm keeping a close eye on it because I've been covering this case from the beginning, and this case really interests me. Abellis, you're asking, Abellis says, why is he not pleading guilty? There's no question he did this. Why put both families through all of this? That's cruel. Well, he's not pleading guilty because he did it under emotional distress. And I'm assuming that if it's under emotional distress, then you would plead not guilty due to extenuating circumstances. And that's all I've heard so far, is that he's going to basically say that I was under so much stress and duress because of what was going on or what was going to happen to my family or what this man did to my child, basically a crime of passion. So he's pleading not guilty for that reason. Thank you.
Is that on all the time?
It's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
And he's talking about the camera. Is the camera on all the time? Thank you, Bama Cap.
Have you spoken with anyone about why that may be?
No. I mean, there's cameras throughout the courthouse.
Well, fair enough, but are you familiar with district judges' chambers normally, how they're set up?
No. I mean, some of them have video surveillance and some don't.
Right, but
this one does.
Generally, when they have surveillance, you'd agree with me that that is utilized when there is a proceeding going on in chambers, correct?
It could be, yes.
Hey, Robin, how are you doing today, lovely?
Okay. And I mean, I'm just asking, so this video didn't have an audio recording to it, correct?
There's no audio.
Outside of once the four people that were inside that we don't know their names, once these four people had left the chambers, were they in an area adjacent where they could hear anything that was going on?
Yes, I believe some of them did remain in the next room.
Okay, and what did they tell us? What did they hear?
I've not been I wasn't part of those interviews.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you're prepared for a preliminary hearing on a murder, and there are witnesses in an adjacent room.
I mean, they heard gunshots.
Now, my question, please.
Yeah, let me ask the questions.
Thank you, officer. So you are investigating a murder and testifying in a preliminary hearing, and there are witnesses who may have overheard what preceded this edited clip, yet you can't tell us today anything that they said?
I've not personally listened to those interviews. I've talked to the other officers that did those interviews.
Fair enough. And I mean, we're here at a preliminary hearing, as you know, that you can testify to hearsay. I'm asking you what they said.
They heard gunshots.
Okay. Was there any statements that they overheard?
No.
Were there raised voices?
One person stated that she didn't recognize him as being Judge Mullen's voice, but heard somebody say, "Help, help."
Now, a lot of people ask, why was this man not prepared? Why did he not talk to the witnesses himself, right? He knew he was about to have this preliminary hearing. He knew he was going to testify. So why didn't he brush up on the information and have it ready to go so he could say, I talked to the witnesses, they said this. I talked to this person, they said that. I know this information and it is this. And a lot of people were upset about that when this first came out. And my thought process on that is, well, this is an open investigation. That man is in the middle of investigating this, okay? And he is under oath right now. So when they have the actual trial for this case and everything's brought out into the open, if they go back to this preliminary hearing and they say, well, you knew this at this time, yet you said that you didn't on the stand, or, you know, this, that, and the third, basically you lied under oath, he's going to go to jail. So if I'm putting myself in his shoes and I know I'm about to have to go testify about an investigation that is open, that I am currently investigating, what I'm going to do is tell my officers, don't tell me anything. I don't want to know anything. I want to go in there and I want to not know much about it, so that if I get asked questions about our open investigation, I'm not lying by saying I don't know. Therefore, I can't be get in trouble for lying under oath later. I also am not going to be accidentally releasing pertinent evidence to our investigation that's supposed to remain private. So that's my theory on why he doesn't know and why he hasn't talked to his officers about what the witnesses said, et cetera, et cetera. Bama Cat says, I think he didn't talk to them on purpose because he didn't want to have anything to say in court, but lead investigators should know what's been going on. Yes, I absolutely agree with that. But I have to ask myself, you know, if I have an open investigation and I know I'm going to have to testify in court and I don't want people to know information about my open investigation, how do I handle that without getting in trouble for lying under oath or perjury or things like that? Well, I'm going to have my people under me investigate and not tell me shit. So therefore I'm not lying. And then later on we can say, okay, well, I wasn't briefed on the case until, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days later. So therefore it's proven by this paperwork right here that I really didn't know anything when I went in court and I was not lying under oath.
Presumably that would be after the firearm was drawn or shot.
Objection, Your Honor.
I would draw, Judge. Okay. So is there any testimony that you can give us today about any statements or arguments or the content of that argument prior to the shooting?
No.
Okay.
Joy said it's like the whole town is hiding something. And let me just say, abso-freaking-lutely.
I want to ask generally, so did you process the scene? Are you the lead investigator on this case?
I am.
Zydio, I don't know what you said, but all I see is we. We also. Okay. I hope it's not yeeting your comments.
Okay, so as a lead investigator, I would presume that you would have secured the chambers and evidence once you arrived.
I was part of that, yes.
You were part of it, right? But you were the lead investigator, so you'd be in charge of those duties and delegating what should be done. Is that fair?
No, I don't delegate what's done.
Okay, so you're the lead investigator. What does that mean?
I'm the case officer.
Okay, so you're carrying the case. So I want to make sure I understand, had Judge Mullins been removed from chambers when you arrived?
No.
Were you able to ascertain, did he have a firearm on his person?
We did not locate one.
You did not locate one?
No, there's not one in the chambers.
Okay. And there was none on his person?
No.
Zio was saying, welcome back to Bad Girl, who said I'm back. The next hearing is very short. That's why I wanted to, because I really wanted to cover it because, like I said, I've been keeping an eye on this case. That's why I wanted to go back and go over all this stuff to kind of give you guys a refresher because it's been a minute. It's been a month or two.
All right. Who was the first person to arrive on behalf of law enforcement to investigate?
They were already in the courthouse.
Fair enough, but I'm talking about in terms of people that we may see a report from or take part in this investigation. Who would be the first person?
I believe Trooper Jason Bates was the first KSP personnel on scene.
Okay. And you spoke with him and
I did.
And he searched and did not locate a firearm?
No, he didn't search the scene, no.
His
role at that point was security of the scene.
I understand, but I'm just trying to ascertain, you said earlier that there was no firearm found.
No.
I'm wanting to know, can you tell us, was it specifically searched for a firearm?
In the judge's chambers?
Yes, sir.
There was myself, Detective Chris Collins, Detective Scott Caldwell, Detective Eric Caldwell. That's all I recall right now.
Okay, but I'm trying to understand. So who searched specifically for a firearm?
We all did.
And that was specifically something you looked for?
Yes.
Fair enough. Okay.
Now, keep in mind, this is Sheriff Mickey Stein's attorney. So he's asking him, like, reiterating, did you find a firearm? Now, we did not see the judge with a firearm. Okay. And if he had a firearm, I would think he would have pulled it out as well. But at the same time, if everybody is corrupt and trying to hide stuff, is it possible that one of the deputies or first persons on scene got rid of the gun that was in there? I mean, it's been stated. That's why I'm bringing it up. Do I think so? No, I don't. Because if there had been a pew pew in there, then the judge would have pulled it out to defend himself. But that has been stated.
Of course, your investigation, did you ascertain that prior in the day, there had been a lunch meeting between Sheriff Steins and Judge Mullins?
So we're about to get into the lunch meeting. Rob and Michelle, I appreciate the offer. The indictment has not even been released to the press yet. So I don't know if it, like, because it is the sheriff and the judge, I don't know that we can get our hands on the document, at least for a while. We might be able to eventually. I mean, and you could definitely try and see, but I would think if it was available for the public to look at, then the news channel or somebody like that would have it out in some kind of article, and I could grab it that way. He was just indicted, I think, Friday, and then had his hearing yesterday. So I'm sure it will come out eventually, but I don't know if anybody can get it right now if the news doesn't even have it, you know?
There was.
There was. Okay. Sorry, someone, I couldn't hear your response. I wasn't being trite. So where did this take place?
It's a restaurant called Street Side, and it's just down the street from the courthouse.
Okay. And it's my understanding there were a couple of other people who attended the luncheon.
There were several, yes.
Okay. And at some point after that, they wrapped up lunch and left, obviously, and went back to the courthouse. Are you aware of anything so far in your investigation that would tell us there was any issues at lunch between Judge Mullins and Sheriff Steins?
No.
Okay. But someone on behalf of the KSB has spoken to those witnesses?
Yes, they've all been interviewed.
And there was nothing unusual that had arisen during that luncheon?
I was told that the judge made a statement to Mickey about, do we need to meet private in my chambers? That's all I was told.
Do you know the context of what the conversation was before that they would need to discuss in chambers?
I do not.
So it's my understanding that in the larger portion of the video that we haven't had access to, that there is a point when Sheriff Steins asked for to see the telephone of Judge Mullins.
So there was several people at this lunch meeting with the sheriff and the judge, and then there was, I think, 3 or 4 other people in this diner eating lunch where they go to eat lunch pretty much on a daily basis. It's right by the courthouse, this little diner. And they, I just lost my train of thought. The sheriff and the judge were having a conversation, and the judge says, do we need to finish this conversation in my chambers? And nobody has said what happened beforehand. They'll say that, but they can't say, you know, oh, the sheriff asked, have you talked to in the name of the daughter recently? And then the judge is like, we need to finish this conversation. Do you want to come to my chambers so we can finish this conversation later? Whatever, et cetera, et cetera. Who all's in on this? Because you know the other people there heard him ask him a question, and the judge respond, do we need to go talk about this in my chambers? Because they heard him say, do we need to go talk about this in my chambers? But nobody will say what the question was that he was responding to with that statement. That bothers me. And Joy says that diner has all the scoop. I believe so. I believe so.
Yes.
Is that a yes? I mean,
yes.
Yes. Okay. And I would presume that you and the other officers you mentioned, when you secured the scene, that you secured those phones as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
And have you reviewed both of those phones?
They're currently at the forensic lab at this time being downloaded. I have had discussions with the people at the lab. regarding the downloads.
And those are a couple of other questions that I was going to ask you, but my original question was, have you reviewed or are you aware of the content of the phones?
I've not personally seen it because I've not received those reports yet.
Okay, again, based upon your conversations with the officers, are you aware of any recent content that was up and could have been relevant at the time of their discussion?
I was told that Sheriff Steins had tried to call his daughter, and he had tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone also.
So that's given us concrete information from the lead investigator that, like True Crime said, it has to do with his daughter. We just found out that the sheriff tried to call his daughter from his phone and then tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone. So what about that situation made this man so mad that he's willing to commit red rum?
So, have you obtained the phone records from Judge Mullins's phone?
I don't have those in my possession yet. No.
Okay. Have you issued a search warrant for them?
Yes.
Okay. And have officers confirmed that the sheriff's daughter's phone number was on Judge Mullins's phone?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes.
So that number had been called from Judge Mullins's phone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's just been verified that, again, he tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone. Now, what would make a man so mad to unalive somebody? Well, if he found out that the judge was messing with his daughter, or the contact picture that was in the judge's phone for the daughter, or the contact name for the daughter, if it was something provocative. It's been stated in one of my previous live streams, somebody said, whatever that content picture, the contact picture was for the daughter or the name, broke the sheriff's heart to the point that he unalived this man. Solistic Glow had a good point. He said he is red, red, red. He knows what's up. And when they show him testifying in the witness stand, the lead investigator on this, look at how red he is. He absolutely is red in the face. Why is he so red? Is he mad? Is he nervous? Is he anxious? What's going on?
So we don't have
that man right there. It went to him and then flipped back real quick. Look at, not the one we see right now, but the one on the witness stand. Look at his face. Hey, Marianne. Marianne said he acted accordingly as a father. Again, I mean, if somebody did that to my child, I see myself having the same reaction. I would be willing to take somebody out. And a lot of people would over my significant other, over your significant other. Me personally, I don't see that as enough to do that. Now, it happens all the time, almost on a daily basis, unfortunately. But me personally, if I find out my significant other is cheating on me or messing around, I'm going to get a divorce. I'm going to take the money and I'm going to leave. Go on, take the money and run. That's going to be me. Like, I'm not going to prison for the rest of my life over something like that. Now, my child, absolutely, without a second thought.
A viewing of what transpired during that exchange of phones. But based upon your review of those moments prior to, when Sheriff Steins observes that cell phone, was he previously seated?
Hello Kitty said, but the sheriff called his daughter. He was enraged after the call, not before. So I don't think it was anything on his phone. Right. But from what I've been told, the daughter did not answer. So when he picked up the judge's phone and tried to call the daughter, what would have enraged him so bad? Like, if I was going to pick up the phone and make a call, and I'm furious already because I think, let's just say, allegedly speculating that this man is messing with my child. Okay, and I pick the phone up and I look at the contact picture and I see something horrendous, or the contact name, and I see something that pisses me off. And then I make the phone call and my child doesn't answer. Am I gonna, like, I would try to make the phone call to see if my child answered before I did that. But you do have a point. Like, if it enraged him to that point, would he not have acted immediately? So that is a good point to take into consideration, because I could see it both ways for sure. Solistic Glow said he knows and does not want to hurt the judge's family. He knows what the backlash will be. Very possible. Good point.
Yes.
Okay, so in the clip we saw, he was standing the entire time.
He was seated in front of the judge's desk.
And he looks at the cell phone. What is it? Can you describe his reaction in the video that we haven't seen?
Whose reaction?
Well, the sheriff.
You can't see his face in the video.
Okay, but is it clear that, does it appear to you that, let me rephrase this. Did he stand up after
Yes.
looking at the phone?
He stood up.
And how long after he looked at the cell phone and stood up did this occur that you played?
Just seconds.
Did you make the decision as?
So going back to Hello Kitty, what you said, when he looks at the phone, he stands up. So again, that makes me think it would be the contact picture. He's going to continue to try to make the call, but he's already in a state of fight because he saw something on the judge's phone. What did he see on the judge's phone that made him stand up and be in a state of fight before making the phone call? And that would make me think the contact picture. Lindsay said, I think he felt betrayed. Oh, I'm sorry. The first one said, in my opinion, the sheriff was clearly off his rocker. We all saw what he did. He's involved in that lawsuit, just had a deposition. Perhaps his wife was planning to leave, daughter ignoring him too. I've heard that. But would you go to prison for the rest of your life over that? And yeah, it's possible. A lot of people do. Lindsay said, I think he felt betrayed by the judge given whatever was brought up in the deposition. Jaded and acted impulsively when his daughter ignored his continuous calls but allegedly answered a random number. And this investigator sucks on the stand. A higher up gave a statement to a newspaper after this hearing and cleared up what he said about the phone. I'll look for it. Okay, yeah, please do if you don't mind.
On edits today for what you were going to present? In terms of, did you make the edit or determine which portion of the video we were going to see today?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. Both cell phones have been sent to the Kentucky State Police Forensic Team, is that correct?
Yes.
Have you gotten any early report on what was found?
No.
Were both phones still on the desk when you arrived?
The judge's phone was on the desk. Sheriff Stein's phone was on his person.
Okay. So are there photographs of, was the phone locked at that point or was it still open?
With both of you asking about both of them, or?
Well, first let's talk about, that's fair. First, I'm talking about Judge Mullins, since it was the one that was still on the desk and presumably nobody touched it prior to you securing it, correct?
No.
So, yeah, so I would like to know about that. Have you ascertained what was currently open on that cell phone?
No, I don't know at this point.
You don't know?
No.
Okay. Do you think that will be important to learn?
I hope to learn that when the report's ready, yes.
Okay. But as of today, you can't tell us what was currently open on the judge's file?
No, sir.
And again, I think all of that is on purpose because, again, it's an open investigation. So if I'm in that man's shoes, I'm going to know as little as humanly possible when I'm questioned about it in court because it's an open investigation. Lindsay said, yeah, the man clearly has pride. I mean, pleading not guilty when it's literally on video. I think he was about to lose everything, including his family. He was elected too, so there goes his name. Right? I mean, and you do have a point because it was like a couple of days before this or the day of or either a day after, he was going to be fired by the mayor and removed from his position for sheriff. He was told to either resign or that he would be fired. I need to find that, and I'll look it up to see if we can talk about it. But I mean, that's very possible too. If he was going to lose everything, I know for a fact that the mayor had told him to resign already when this happened. Like, I mean, it's possible, absolutely. The having pride, like, why wouldn't he just go ahead and plead guilty? Is because he's saying that it was a crime of passion. Therefore, I think if he pleads guilty, it states it was a crime of passion. Like, I think it throws that option out. I know that they're saying it was a crime of passion. So I'm thinking you have to plead not guilty in order to go that avenue, because you could say you were not guilty because you were in such emotional distress, you reacted without thinking, therefore you're not guilty, is what I think is going to be the route they take. Oh,
Did you conduct an interview with Sheriff Stein's daughter?
I did not, but she has been interviewed.
Are you aware of who was present when she was interviewed?
Lieutenant Randy Combs and Detective Anthony Trotter.
Okay. And she was interviewed with or without her parent?
With.
So her parent was present at the time you interviewed her?
Yes, I believe. I wasn't there, but yes, I think so.
The law enforcement has not spoken to her without her parent present?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Did the Kentucky State Police obtain her phone?
No.
You intend to obtain records for her cell phone number?
Possibly, yes.
Do you believe that will be soon that you'll do that?
Could be, yes.
Okay. Had you already intended to do that, or did you just respond to my question?
Well, the call should be on the judge's records too.
Well, I understand.
And she's made statements about what occurred during those conversations.
I understand that, but I would presume that have you ascertained whether Judge Mullins also had apps that stand outside of phone records?
I've not received those records yet. I don't know what's on the phone.
Fair enough, but I mean, did you look at the phone? Did it appear there were apps on it?
I'm not the person that's qualified to look through the phone.
Okay, but you're familiar with cell phones. They can host other forms of communication.
Hold on.
Yes, sir.
What's the judge? He's been asked an answer, Your Honor. He's asked a question, I think about 4 or 5 different ways. The officers, the detective repeatedly said it. He does not have a report with phones. He's not good at the phone. He can't testify that matter.
I should
let him ask the question, and what he can only testify what he has personal knowledge about.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor. So you're aware that phones can be used for apps such as Facebook?
Yes.
Okay. And that is not something that is captured by cell phone records. You would agree with me?
I agree.
Okay. So in light of that, although the records may be mutually the same, right? You know, the same between Judge Mullins.
I was looking for that article and I did find it. Lindsay said, plus to this man's credit, this is a hearing to determine probable cause or whatever. The judge decided there's enough, so it got sent to investigative grand jury, which decided to indict him. Yes. So there's more evidence that came from that. Hello, Mama Duck. Queen Agerbot. Mama Duck says sheriff is continually elected officer of the law. They are elected. They cannot be fired by the mayor. Okay, yeah, he was asked to resign. And I'll pull up that article and we'll talk about it as soon as we get done hearing about this deposition, or the preliminary hearing, excuse me. And then after that, we can go over the new indictment where he pleads not guilty. I did find the article and I emailed it to myself, so we'll talk about it. And I might have the wording wrong, but there was something going on to that effect. I apologize if I worded it the wrong way. And I appreciate the information. And you said elected officials in Kentucky are impeached if they do not resign. So yeah, that might be the correct wording. I appreciate the correction. Lindsay said, I personally get hung up on the thing about Stein's employees turning her phone over to investigator, believing that she had context to the shooting. Example, group text with Stein's and his employees about the lunch combo. Right. So what was on the phone? What did she feel so inclined enough that she needed to give that over to investigators? Lindsay, no, I found the article where the mayor is telling him to resign, telling Judge Steins to resign a couple of days before the shooting. His daughter is 17 at the time that this happened, I do believe.
Owns his phone and the sheriff's daughter. Do you believe that you could also ascertain other information from the cell phone app content?
Are you asking what apps are on the phone?
Yes. Well, that was my original question.
I
but
don't
thought
know
you did know.
without, I've not received that report yet. I don't know what apps he had downloaded on the phone.
If he has social media apps, do you intend to?
That could lead to additional search warrants, yes.
If you would, officer, please let me finish before you move forward, and I'll try to slow down a little bit as well, okay?
Sure.
Thank you, Trooper. Have you determined whether there were any previous issues, personal or professional, between Sheriff Steins and Judge Mullins?
I've heard things.
Okay, what have you heard?
Just that this regarding the lawsuit that the Letcher County Sheriff's Office is currently involved with.
Okay. The lawsuit that involved ultimately a criminal conviction of a deputy for sexual behavior in the judge's chambers. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. And the subject matter of that lawsuit, the chambers area, that's the same chambers in which this occurred. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with the details of that case that the lawsuit resulted from.
Okay. Are you aware of any criminal reports that Sheriff Steins had made of Judge Mullins prior to this day?
No.
Did you?
Okay, so Pinto said, detective continues to interrupt lawyer. I detect agitation. Absolutely. I did pull up the article and we'll go over it, but Zayo stated that Bashir's office and Kentucky General Counsel S. Travis Mayo asked Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins to resign by the end of Friday. The letter noted that under state law, Steins will be removed from his position if he does not resign. Thank you so much for that. And it you state that if you do not tender your resignation, the governor will move forward with removal. And now if that's impeachment process, so be it. But he was asked to resign regardless of the means. Yes. And that's what I'm going to pull up just to show you guys after this. We've got about like 12 more minutes of this deposition. Oh, really, Abellis? That's awesome. I'm glad you see that. And Sarah said, please don't forget to smash the like button. Thank you, Sarah.
Did you personally observe Sheriff Steins following this video?
Did I personally observe him? What?
Did you meet with him? Did you talk to him after?
He was in custody when I arrived at the courthouse that afternoon.
And at some point, did you draw any observation about his demeanor?
He was mostly calm, I thought. I mean, I talked to him, but he didn't say nothing about why this had happened. But he was calm. He was kind of afraid that basically all he said was, treat me fair. That's basically the comments he made.
Okay. Did he also make a statement about, I didn't see it in the citation here, but somewhere along the line I saw a statement being attributed to him about protecting his family
I wasn't present, but when he was taken into custody, I was told by one of the other officers that were there that he made the comment, they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid.
Okay, so my issue with this is if they were trying to kidnap his wife and kid, what does that have to do with him calling his daughter from the phone moments before he pew-pews the judge? How does it correlate? I don't understand. But yeah, the only things he said after he was arrested at this point in time when they had the preliminary hearing was treat me fair, and they were trying to kidnap my wife and kids. I'm sorry, bad girl. It rubs me the wrong way too, Lindsay. Lindsay says,
Have you ascertained any evidence that this shooting was pre-planned?
No.
Okay.
Not just.
Lindsay says, I don't know. To me, I think the daughter had been ignoring his calls. And again, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, that's a possible motive.
So, and would you agree that from what we've seen so far, from the evidence you've seen so far, the shooting was a reaction to what was on that cell phone in that moment? Is that accurate?
Objection, Your Honor. Also speculation outside of his scope of expertise.
Your Honor, I believe that if he has formed an opinion about the investigation up to this point, especially at a preliminary hearing, he could speculate on that, Judge.
Well, she's saying.
Sure. So, is there anything other than the content of the phone that this video will reveal to us about why this took place?
No.
Does it appear that this took place as a reaction to what was happening in the chambers at that point?
I can say it occurred after a phone call was made. I don't know what was said or nothing like that, but
Fair enough. And I'm not asking you the content of any of that, but at this point, is it your theory that whatever that content was in the discussion was the impetus of the shooting?
it could be, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay. Do you have any evidence up until this point that you have developed that would demonstrate that it was not as a reaction to what was on the phone?
No.
None whatsoever?
No.
Okay.
And again, keep in mind that this is the lawyer for Steins. He has lawyer-client privilege. So I would think he'd be upfront and honest with his lawyer and say, this is what happened. This is why I reacted this way. And then the lawyer's asking questions relevant to what his client has told him as to why he did this. And he's trying to lead up to why he did this. Okay. And he's saying, have you found any information to state that it's not directly correlated to what was on the phone? And the lead investigator just stated no. So again, it's gotta have to do with that phone, in my opinion. Lindsay said, I read a local article that Steins was unreachable by a local paper for a statement about some incident like 2 weeks before this or something. Finally called back and said he was dealing with a lot. Yes. And added the detail he had lost like 40 pounds over the past 2 weeks and he didn't know why. If you ask me, he did know why, and he was pooping a brick over the upcoming deposition. Yes, he had been stressed out. It was not like him to not call the newspaper back or, these media agencies to give public statements. Like they state that before this 2-week period, he was always on time about it and very, very much professional. And 2 weeks before this, a car accident, I believe it was, had happened, and they called him, and he didn't call back for like a long time. He had been stressed out. He lost a lot of weight over the past 2 weeks, and this is the 2 weeks before the shooting happened. So what was stressing him out so bad that he was, not performing at work as normal? He lost a lot of weight. Zio said Steins had resigned from his role as sheriff just a few days before the September 19th shooting incident. The reason for his resignation has not been publicly connected to any formal request. Thank you for that. We'll go over the article in just a second. I appreciate the information. Yes. Yes, the Eagle, Lindsay, and Robin said they are definitely leaving something out. Something is missing. Absolutely. Yes.
Just if I had just one moment to confirm.
Yes, Pinto. He had lost 40 pounds in like 2 weeks. And this was before the shooting. So something stressed him the F out. He wasn't acting normal. What was he so stressed out about? I mean, we find the answer to that, we're going to have another clue in this case that's just mind-boggling.
Did you attempt to speak to Sheriff Steins at the Leslie County Jail after the incident?
No.
Did anyone from your agency attempt to interview him?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And at that point, had he asserted his right to an attorney or anything?
No.
But nobody went back to try to talk to him or do an interview?
No.
Yeah.
Lindsay said, well, now I'm reading an article from just yesterday, and his defense is now saying the deposition does play a crucial role in the case. So I haven't seen that article yet, so that's interesting. So this court that we're listening to right now, evidently an article that was just released yesterday, said this is very important to his defense. So another reason to pay close attention. I'm not sure about his resignation prior to the shooting either. I haven't heard that it was prior to the shooting, but we'll read the article and find out. The civil case, Zio said, do we know if he had a civil case pending for something? The civil case is against him, and it's from the female inmates that were being abused in the courthouse after hours by the deputy that he had running the drug program. Yes, Lindsay.
I have one other question. In addition to cell phones that we discussed, the cell phone of Sheriff Steins and the cell phone that you found of Judge Mullins, were there additional phones that you were able to obtain?
There was one other phone that's currently being examined, and the basic reason it was seized was there was a text conversation between Sheriff Steins and some of his employees with the sheriff's office.
Okay, and that was an additional phone of Sheriff Steins?
It was a phone of, I guess she's the, I don't know what her title is, but she's employed. She's not sworn. She's employed by the Letcher County Sheriff's Office. And she voluntarily gave her phone to the person that interviewed her.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, what could you explain why that was relevant or germane to your investigation?
I didn't conduct that interview, but it was, I guess it was regarding the dinner at Streetside and things that led up to the shooting. But I don't have those results either, so I don't know exactly what was said.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought when we discussed that earlier that you indicated there was no evidence that the conversations at the lunch.
I haven't seen those conversations yet. I've not received downloads from the phone.
Right, but I asked you if you're aware of any information that could have been gleaned from witnesses at that meeting. And as I recall, you said no, but there is some information that something was discussed at this lunch. Is that correct?
I don't know what was discussed at lunch.
I understand, but you obtained this lady that we don't know her name, you obtained her phone in an effort or based on a belief that she would be able to demonstrate what was said at lunch. So you would agree with me, you believe that there is a witness or information that may have popped up at lunch.
There's a recorded interview with her in the case, and I'm yet to receive the downloads of the phone, so I don't know what they contain.
Okay, well, is that
So what did she talk about, Sheriff Steins? Like, what did they conversate about? And why did she feel it was so important that she turned it over to the investigators in this case? What does she know?
phone been sent to for
It is.
forensic examination as well?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Officer, that's all I have. Thank you.
Just two questions. Is Judge Mullins, you sent to medical examiner's office for an autopsy?
He was.
Have you received that report yet?
No.
Have you had an informal conversation with him regarding his cause of death?
Yes.
And what was that?
Multiple gunshot wounds.
The video we showed earlier, that a true and accurate copy of what you received?
Yes.
Concluded it is comes exhibit number 1, Your Honor. Any objection?
Your Honor, I'd ask, of course, all we saw today was the clip, but I asked it to be admitted in its entirety, and I'm going to
respond to that.
Good job. I'm only think preliminary here is required for its probable cause. This establishes probable cause. I think the entire clip is outside the purview of the his proceedings today.
I think if you're going to want to see the old video, you should check earlier. I'll admit it was short.
It's hard to understand, but they're just talking about admitting the video into evidence. Pinto said folks that work in that small town courthouses know a lot of info too. Yep. And Lindsay said, right, and that's crucial to me because it was allegedly a group message with Steins and other deputies of his about the lunch conversation with the judge. Yes. Yes, Abellis, this case is strange and there is a lot of mysteries. Hey, Toxic. Thank you for being here. I don't remember anything else.
Hey, Detective, this is an ongoing investigation.
Yes, it is.
And as this ongoing investigation proceeds, you will be also interviewing more people if necessary, submitting more evidence to the lab.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Any other witnesses for the Commonwealth?
Okay, so again, that reiterated that it is an open investigation. I will go read this article real quick and then we'll come back to this and we will get the indictment video. So let me read to you about the Kentucky governor. Yeah, I said mayor, but it's the governor. I think they're the same. I want to make sure y'all can see it before I start reading it. All righty. So it says Kentucky governor tells sheriff accused of, I went too fast, fatally shooting judge to resign. Governor Andy Beshear's general counsel said Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins will be removed from office if he doesn't resign by Friday. And there's the picture. The general counsel for Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear ordered the sheriff accused of gunning down a judge in his chambers to resign by the end of the week or face removal proceedings. In a letter Wednesday, S. Travis Mayo told Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins that if he does not tender his resignation to Letcher County Judge or Executive by the end of Friday, he will move forward with removing him under the state law that allows governors to fire peace officers for neglect. Steins, who pled not guilty to a charge of first-degree unaliving in connection with September 19th shooting of District Judge Kevin Mullins, has 20 days to prepare a defense according to the statutes. Mullins, 54, was shot multiple times and pronounced dead at the scene. Steins, 43, surrendered at the courthouse without incident. The Letcher County Sheriff's Office could not be reached for comment Thursday. a lawyer representing Steins in a 2022 federal civil case accusing him of failing to adequately train and supervise a deputy accused of abuse, did not immediately respond to request for comment. Letcher County Judge or Executive Terry Adams did not immediately respond to requests for a comment. A Kentucky police spokesman has said the shooting at the Letcher County Courthouse occurred after an argument in the building. Authorities have not disclosed a possible motive. 3 days before the shooting, Stein was deposed for nearly 4 hours in connection with the federal lawsuit, which alleges the deputy abused a woman, according to the victim's lawyer. A filing in the case from Stein's lawyer argued that Steins was protected from being sued over the allegations because of his position as an elected official and law enforcement officer. Asked whether state police are investigating a potential link between the suit and the shooting, a spokesman for the agency, Matt Gayhart, said nothing is being ruled out as a possible motive at this point. John Shaw, the lawyer representing Steins in the lawsuit, said he did not know anything about the shooting other than what has been reported in the news. I hope that in time we will have a clear understanding of the circumstances that led to Judge Mullen's death, Shaw said in an email. From what I heard, though, he was given that letter before the shooting. I'll continue to look. We will watch. Okay, so now we're going to get into the new information. Hold on just a minute. Let me get it pulled up for y'all so that y'all can see it too. From what I remember, I thought that it was the mayor had just recently asked him to resign in reference to the lawsuit, the federal lawsuit about what his officer had done. And I'm pretty sure it was. I want to find some news reiterating that. So I'll continue to look for that. Oh my goodness, Abellis, thank you so much. Abellis just gifted 5 memberships. If you guys were gifted a membership from her, please tell her thank you. Thank you so much, Abellis. You're so awesome. Thank you. If you guys, again, were gifted a membership, please tell her thank you. Hey, Shaboogies. Abellis is a legend, isn't she?
The sheriff, charged with murdering his friend, who's a judge, appears in court to enter a plea to the charge. I have new information.
This is from probably News Nation. Law and Crime Network, and it is titled Former Kentucky Sheriff Indicted and Judges Unaliving. It's from 22 hours ago. Hey, Content Angel, thank you for being here, lovely.
In the case of the former sheriff, Mickey Steins, and where the case goes from here. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Mickey Steins made international news when he was arrested and charged with murdering his friend of many years, Judge Kevin Mullins. Now Steins has been indicted for murder of a public official, and he's entered a plea. I'll show you that hearing in just a bit. This case is not a whodunit, far from it. It's more of a why did he do it? And is the crime murder or something else? Steins shot and killed Judge Mullins on September 19th, and the crime was captured by security cameras. The case is absolutely unbelievable because Steins, the well-liked now former Letcher County sheriff, who's supposed to enforce the law, is accused of breaking it, committing the most serious crime you can in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. That day, Steins and Mullins went to lunch together. It was something that they had done together many, many times over the years. Steins and Mullins were longtime friends.
I just want to state real quick that it states that the mayor or governor sent the letter telling him to resign on Wednesday, okay? Because it stated in the article, and I'm looking at it again on my phone, in a letter Wednesday, Travis Mayo told Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins that if he does not tender his resignation to Letcher County judge or executive by the end of Friday, he will move forward with removing him under state laws that allows governors to fire peace officers for neglect. And the neglect was the federal lawsuit stating that the inmates were being abused by the deputy. Okay. So that happened Wednesday. Thursday, the next day, is when the sheriff shot the judge. That's why it was important. So he got that letter a day before he went and did that to the judge. He got the letter stating he was going to be removed if he didn't resign. Hey, Itchy Witcher's Horse Rescue. I love your name. Yeah. I didn't know it either until I was going over one of the live streams that he was asked to resign. And I went over in one of my previous live streams. I learned it while we were doing a live that day. So now, just to reiterate, we are back to current times, and this was just released 22 hours ago.
At one time, Steins had worked as Mullins' bailiff. The lunch came up at a preliminary hearing in October.
Are you aware of anything so far in your investigation that would tell us there was any issues at lunch between Judge Mullins and Sheriff Steins?
No.
Okay. But someone on behalf of the KSP has spoken to those witnesses?
Yes, they've all been interviewed.
And there was nothing unusual that had arisen during that luncheon?
I was told that the judge made a statement to Mickey about, do we need to meet private in my chambers? That's all I was told.
Okay, and in reference to this preliminary hearing that's being referenced and the one we just watched, you guys were telling me about there was something that a higher up cleared, that this person you see on the screen, the lead investigator, misspoke about something that was later cleared up by one of his higher ups. Well, Lindsay found the article, and the article stated KSP, or Kentucky State Police, later clarified that they have no evidence the daughter's phone number was on the judge's phone before the sheriff dialed it, despite court testimony that suggested that. And I do want to put that out there because it is a fact. I question if the Kentucky State Police are involved in this because small town politics. But yeah, thank you for that.
Do you know the context of what the conversation was before that they would need to discuss in chambers?
I do not.
The prosecution played the video of Stein shooting Mullins.
And were you able to identify the parties we saw in that video?
That was Sheriff Mickey Steins and Judge Kevin Mullins.
And also, who had the firearm?
Sheriff Steins.
And then Judge was also in his black robe.
Yes.
Do you know what portion of the courthouse that is?
That is the judge's chambers.
And where's that located at, physically located?
In the Letcher County Courthouse.
Now, there was no audio of the video, so we don't know what was said before Steins fired.
And have you had an opportunity to review the video
I have.
Of the prior incident?
I have.
And can you describe for us what happened immediately prior to the clip that we saw?
Sheriff Steins uses his telephone to make some phone calls. He then borrows Judge Mullins' cell phone and appears to make a call on that. And that led to what you just saw.
Okay.
Mickey Steins was the sheriff of Letcher County, so he's not the type of person that you would think would be charged with the crime. I decided to look up Sheriff Steins on truthfinder.com to see what I would find out about him. Truthfinder is one of the largest public record search services out there. I put in Steins' name and he appeared, including the fact that he worked at the Letcher County Sheriff's Office. No surprise there. The murder charge he faces doesn't yet appear, but that's still pretty new, so it shouldn't take long for it to pop up.
Now, I was watching this last night. I just watched the beginning of it to try to get it ready for our live today. And I saw this commercial, and that made me realize that it's not out yet. And I did today, before the live, look to see if I could find the actual indictment papers, and it's still not out. But if you guys want to use Truthfinder or Intellis, those are both good places to get information like this. Hold on.
much conversation and speculation.
I'm gonna back it up.
.com/LC Crime Fix and start accessing.
Okay, I wanted to back it up so we call every bit of this. And Lindsay said, and that's all in an article from October 1st, last updated on October 8th, by KCVR News. Okay.
Accessing information about almost anyone. The call placed by Steins has been the topic of much conversation and speculation.
I was told that Sheriff Steins had tried to call his daughter, and he had tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone also.
So, have you obtained the phone records from Judge Mullins' phone?
I don't have those in my possession yet, no.
Okay. Have you issued a search warrant for them?
Yes.
Okay. And have officers confirmed that the sheriff's daughter's phone number was on Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes. I believe so, yes.
So that number had been called from Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, there have been questions about whether the phone number of Sheriff Steins' daughter was actually saved in Judge Mullins' phone. A Kentucky State Police spokesperson told me recently that Steins' daughter's phone number was not stored in Judge Mullins' phone. So Mickey.
Okay, so there's reiteration of that article that Lindsay was so kind to pull for us.
Steins actually had to dial that phone number. Also adding to the mystery, what Mickey Steins said to law enforcement when they took him into custody.
He was mostly calm, I thought. I mean, I talked to him, but he didn't say nothing about why this had happened. But he was calm. He was kind of afraid that basically all he said was, treat me fair. That's basically the comments he made.
Okay. Did he also make a statement about, I didn't see it in the citation here, but somewhere along the line I saw a statement being attributed to him about protecting his family?
I wasn't present, but when he was taken into custody, I was told by one of the other officers that were there that he made the comment, they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid.
That was a stunning comment, and it had people wondering what could have been.
I apologize. I thought I was muted. Y'all heard me coughing and talking to Basil. I'm sorry. Lindsay said, perfect, great clip. That's what I was saying. Right on. Content said, I knew that was a piece of misinformation. Yep. And then Abella said, if he unalived him for no reason, he's going to look like an idiot in prison forever. Yeah, but I think that there was definitely a reason. There wouldn't be, you wouldn't go do something like that with no reason. You know what I mean? There's some kind of deep emotional reason behind it, I think, personally.
Have been going on in this small town.
Oh, thank
Kentucky
you.
State Police tell me they're investigating every possibility. In the background of this case is a civil lawsuit. Sheriff Steins had been deposed in that suit days earlier. One of his former deputies, Ben Fields, was convicted of raping and sodomizing a former inmate named Sabrina Atkins in Judge Mullins' chambers. Where
so there's one of our victims that's from the federal lawsuit, and that's the deputy that is being accused of abusing these ladies, and I know the other one is deceased. So there's information on that story there.
Where there weren't any cameras present when it happened in 2021. Atkins' suit accuses Sheriff Steins of ignoring the behavior. Steins' lawyers had previously told me that their client was receiving an outpouring of support from the community.
What I am amazed by are the stories of Sheriff Steins transporting juvenile.
So this is, remember, that's his lawyer that was just speaking in the deposition from October. This is him currently.
And stopping at the McDonald's drive-thru to get them food and to take care of people who were, who were having difficulties in getting food and taking it to their house. I've heard from drug addicts and recovering addicts who attribute their sobriety and their success in life to Sheriff Stein's efforts. Now,
so he was evidently a wonderful pillar of the community. Content Angel said, you guys, maybe the judge refused to write a letter for the sheriff, like the character witness type letters to support him. It's possible. It's very possible. But would you shoot somebody over that? Would be my question. Yeah, the cop that was having relations has been tried, and he pled guilty for having relations with the women, for abusing the inmates in the judge's chambers. Oh, Lord. Content. Hey, Kayla.
That is important to us because, again, there is something, and we want to know
Lindsay.
what, and we're continuing to do our own investigation. But we, ultimately the Commonwealth has to give us the information to understand what would make this man who has served so honorably in his community to get to the point where he felt the only thing he could do to protect his wife and daughter is to take action on his own.
Now to today's arraignment.
Now, again, with the fact that that's coming from his attorney, that tells me that he's telling his attorney, this X, Y, and Z happened. That's why I felt like my only option was to grab my pew-pew and unalive this judge. So what has he told his attorney that happened to make him grab his pew-pew and unalive the judge? Because, again, that's his attorney, and his attorney and him have attorney-client privilege. So, therefore, he's going to be open with him, and he's going to tell him everything, all the reasons, all the things that happened, everything. He's going to lay it out to his attorney so his attorney can defend him to the best of his ability. So that's the one I want to hear speaking. I want his attorney to speak because his attorney knows stuff that nobody else does.
And Sheriff Stein's entering a not guilty plea to the charges. The former law enforcement officer walked into court in a gray jail jumpsuit, handcuffed.
We'll waive a formal reading and enter a not guilty plea at this time, Judge.
And you're satisfied that Mr. Steins is aware of his rights?
Yes,
and
Your
the
Honor.
nature and substance of his murder charge?
Absolutely, Your Honor. Yes.
It's a formality, but Steins' lawyers filed a notice to preserve all evidence. The judge ordered Steins held without bail. After the brief hearing, Steins was led back to jail. Mickey Steins' lawyers say they're waiting on discovery to dig into the case and review the evidence, and venue could become an issue in this case. This happened in a small town. Attorney Jeremy Bartley also told me he thinks the federal civil lawsuit in which Steins was deposed before the shooting could provide some context about what happened, but it's more than could be explained in a soundbite. Bartley also said they've seen no evidence that there was an inappropriate relationship between Judge Mullins and Steins' daughter. I spoke with the Bartleys in October about the case. So many people are asking why. I mean,
and again, I'm assuming that it flipped back to October, but we're going to find out. So again, everybody keeps saying though that there's no proof or evidence of an inappropriate relationship. So I ask why. Oh, hold on. We have a comment here I was going to read real quick. Toxic Orchid said, I believe Steins was angry about being dragged into it. Also, what did Steins see on the judge's phone that had to have been something more to make him pew-pew the judge? Yeah, that's the key to this case. What did he see on the phone? And everybody keeps saying it doesn't involve the daughter. So what else could it be? Unless he saw a message where they're planning to kidnap his wife and daughter. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
I mean, it's clearly on the videotape. He's pleaded not guilty in the lower court, but why? That's the big question. And you asked a number of questions under cross-examination yesterday, Jeremy, about the daughter, about her phone number being in Judge Mullins's phones. Where were you going with that line of questioning? There's been a lot of talk in that small town, but not a lot of concrete answers about what may have been the impetus for this.
Well, I mean,
Again, here's the lawyer. I want to hear him speak. Content brings up another good speculation, possibly text from the governor or another politician that read the sheriff needs to go. Very possible. Very possible.
Our investigation's still ongoing, and I would hope, given the incomplete answers we got yesterday, that law enforcement's investigation is ongoing. At this point, we don't have a complete picture, but what I think was apparent very early is that there was a sudden inflammation of of emotion that transpired in the moments just before the tape came on in the clip that we saw.
So what emotion would make you do that? Hey, She 3PO. Thank you for being here. She 3PO said he may have felt if they took his career away, his wife would leave him and take their daughter. Another wonderful speculation. Very possible. And then Lindsay said, I've also wondered if the judge gave Staub's wife a heads up about what's to come with the lawsuit and the deposition. Toxic feels like it's some kind of ring. And Kayla says, it's just weird to me that the guy being questioned says he's the lead investigator, but he said he hasn't done any interviews or even interviewed the sheriff. Yeah, again, I think that's because it's an open investigation and he wanted to go on the stand and know as little as possible so that he doesn't jeopardize his active investigation. But that's just my thought on why the lead investigator barely told us anything during the deposition in October.
And so this tape was edited to cut out anything that happened just prior. And we think the moments just prior will tell the whole story. I don't know at this point what ultimately was on that phone. They're examining the phones, but we believe that based upon the statements that our client made just following arrest, as well as the indication that there was this exchange of phones or viewing of phones, that something in that moment made our client feel that there was no other choice than to do what he did.
So it almost sounds like you think he snapped. I mean, this was a reaction.
Well, yeah, and that would be textbook extreme emotional disturbance with the textbook example always of finding your significant other with someone else, and in the moment, in the older case law, they referred to it the heat of passion, and that's pretty much the same line of reasoning that extreme emotional disturbance follows.
There was discussion that he said something about protecting his wife and daughter, or he was concerned about his wife and daughter. And then you were able to elicit that under the questioning of the lead detective, that the daughter's number, and she's a minor from what I understand, her phone number was in Judge Mullins's cell phone. I don't know if that would be unusual since they had been friends for many years. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Okay, so he's about to elaborate. Content Angel says, does anyone know if the sheriff hired these attorneys and what happened to his claims that he needed a public defender? I remember that claim. And they had to see if he made too much money for a public defender, but I don't know if these were hired or if these are those public defenders. Lindsay said his comment of treat me fair likely rings even truer. Perhaps he felt the judge was treating him unfairly to the furthest extent by not defending him or allowing him to be fired or whatever. Possible. Yeah, Joy, the lawyer does need to be careful with the wording. Lindsay said the reason lead investigator didn't know much on the stand is because he literally didn't know much. Laugh out loud. That hearing was just a month after the shooting. I think it was even sooner than that. I don't know if it was even a month, to determine if it should be sent to an investigative grand jury, which then gathers information necessary to indict him for unaliving, which is what just happened yesterday. Yes. And Toxic said perhaps accusations about Steins turning a blind eye with such a suit against him may be why they want him gone. All possible motives. Great points.
What was going on with the daughter's phone number being in Judge Mullins's cell phone?
Now, candidly, I believe that the officer testified that he believed that our client made a call from the judge's phone. So whether or not there was a call separate from that or whether there were any other calls, I mean, we'll have to await the cell phone records to determine. But there was obviously, if in fact it is true that what the officer said, that the daughter's number was dialed during this period of time, and you take that in companion with the statement that our client felt like his wife and his daughter were in danger, then we think certainly there is something there that is going to support our contention that Mr. Steins felt as though he had to act. Now, what that looks like objectively is subject to more discovery and more investigation.
Why were you asking about the apps on the phones and the different types of apps that can be used for communication? I mean, it seems to me you could draw an inference that Judge Mullins potentially may have been communicating with Sheriff Steins' wife or daughter. Do you know that to be true?
I have no objective facts that would lead us there or that would.
Okay. Lindsay said, I think the clip we watched just earlier was more recent than this clip here. I'm not sure. I think everything earlier was older than this. This is 22 hours ago, but it's possible I might have got something mixed up.
Anything other than, of course, there's plenty of speculation. And so I'm just asking the questions. At this point, I'm asking the questions to try and determine, A, what the objective truth is, right? But if you look at that statute, the statute is in reference to what our client's subjective belief was at the time that he acted. And so you actually, everyone wants to know the objective why, but for us, we want to know the objective truth. But the important thing ultimately for the trial is, what did our client believe? And so to answer your question more succinctly, I do not have any basis now to make any conclusion about the phone number or any interaction, other than it appears that our client made the statement that he was concerned about the safety of his wife and daughter.
Do we know, either Carrie or Jeremy, why Sheriff Steins decided to use Judge Mullins's phone instead of his own? We know you said that he did use his phone and then use the judge's phone.
Yeah, that is another reason why the phones are going to be so important in this case. And until we have back the forensic review of the phones, all of the phones, and in fact, I think we learned that there was another phone that was seized or maybe turned over from an employee of the sheriff's
But from what I understand, they didn't pull the daughter's phone, which is I'm like, why wouldn't you pull the daughter's phone as well if she's being brought into this? Even just verbally, I would still pull that phone to see, because, I mean, you think about if there was some kind of inappropriate relationship between the judge and the daughter, well, of course, the judge is going to delete it all off his phone. But then you think about the mind of a minor child, 17-year-old, 18-year-old, whatever, they more than likely are not going to have everything deleted off of their phone. And if they do, it would be easy to recover what they deleted. It would be a lot easier than to try to recover what a judge or a sheriff might have deleted. So it's weird to me that they didn't pull the daughter's phone, or the last I heard, they hadn't pulled her phone. I think they should have pulled her phone.
We were not aware of before we were going into the hearing yesterday. All of those phones are going to become critical. And at this point, we just don't know.
The Bartleys say they're investigating everything, including whether the civil suit involving former Deputy Fields played a role.
We have to.
Lindsay said they might have now with the investigative grand jury. And Gerald Campbell, you're good, love, but thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you dropping in today.
Ask the question, since the allegations involve the same chambers, the same location that this incident took place in, and I'm still struck by how unusual it is that you have a live recording of a judge's chambers going on. Most of the time, if you have cameras in a judge's chambers, they are only on if you're having a hearing. And at that point, they're initiated by a court staff, and then they are turned off by a court staff, and they include audio. But I don't know of another judge that would have had a video camera recording him 24/7 or 9 to 5, however long he's in the office. Now, we've had some information.
So is that weird that he had this camera on all the time? Was there backdoor dealings going on? Did he know that he was possibly in danger and put the camera there himself in case anything happened like what happened? That's interesting.
That these cameras were put up after the lawsuit and after the conviction of a deputy for some sexual crimes that he committed in the judge's chambers, these same chambers. So again, we're asking the questions too. And so far, no one will give us the answers.
There are a lot of rumors floating around that small town, and one of them has to do with Sheriff Steins' daughter. And we know that she was interviewed by law enforcement in the presence of her mother. Do we know, is there any indication that there's some investigation going on related to that? Kentucky State Police have kind of said they are looking into kind of everything and whether or not there may have been something going on that was untoward with his daughter. Are you aware of anything?
We await the results of the investigation ourselves. I don't know anything more than we heard yesterday at the hearing in terms of what that evidence may look like. We don't know. I mean, we're not at this point. We're not making that allegation at all. We are trying to understand why our client felt that he had to protect his wife and daughter, as he told the officers that day. And, that could be one, that could be based upon one factor. It could be multiple factors. And again, at this point, we're trying to, we don't want to speculate. I'm not going to speculate about anything just because there are these salacious rumors. I'm not going to get into that or speculate about that because for us, the examination is, did our client believe at that time that he either acted in self-protection or that he was so emotionally overcome that he was unable to control his actions in that point? It's based upon his subjective belief. What ultimately is objectively true may be important to know, but the focus will be on what our client believed at the time he had to do.
Despite Sheriff Steins being charged with murder, the most serious offense a person can face in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the Bartleys say Steins is receiving a lot of support.
Sheriff.
Lindsay said, I think the camera came in after the criminal charges in the lawsuit. Very possible. Rubber said, or was there nefarious things going on in that office and the camera could easily use for blackmail? Just another thought. Very possible. Good speculation. Lindsay said, I wonder if the group text with Steins' employees about the lunch conversation with the judge might have had something similar along the lines of what he said after the deposition and accident. Possible. Very possible. Steins told his employees not to answer any questions about anything while he was away from the office. Absolutely. He did. I remember hearing that now that you mention it. He's a big man. He gained back that 40 plus more. I think he was bigger than that before he lost the 40. And she 3PO said the sheriff went out of his way to make sure the judge was gone. Wonder what the judge knew. I think that's what everybody's wondering. Great points, guys.
Sheriff Steins has, you would not believe the outpouring of expressions of support for Sheriff Steins. Again, ultimately, no one is going to ever say, we're never going to say that, that this is a beneficial thing or a positive thing that a man was killed. It's a tragic thing, no matter how we look at it. And just because we represent the sheriff, anytime there's a loss of life, that's tragic.
Well, it's certainly still very early on. Jeremy and Carrie Bartley, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me.
So that's all I have on that. We now know that he was indicted for first-degree unaliving. We still don't know much about why. And I'm going to have to go for the day. I really appreciate you guys being here. I really appreciate you guys talking to me. This case is really intriguing to me, and I intend to follow it. This is one of the cases I have invested a lot into. I am very, very curious as to what was going on in this small town in Appalachia. Very intriguing to me. Lindsay said, I always enjoy bouncing ideas off of one another with y'all, but I got to run. Happy early Thanksgiving. Happy early Thanksgiving, love. And yes, my page, my YouTube channel, I always want it to be where we can bounce ideas off of each other. We can talk about our theories and thoughts and speculations, and we can be open and understanding and observant of other people's viewpoints and their feelings towards cases, even if we don't feel the same way they do. I might feel somebody's innocent that you feel is guilty, but you tell me why you think they're guilty, and then maybe I change my mind. I want an open, welcome space. That's why we're called the Speculating Family, because we're like a family over here, and I really appreciate you guys being here. I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you have the best day ever. As a matter of fact, I know tomorrow we will be starting to get ready for Thanksgiving. I will too. I will be here, and I'm going to try my best to be here on Thanksgiving for a few minutes, not for long, not for like we usually do 2 or 3 hours. I don't think I'll be on here that long on Thanksgiving, but I want to talk about some crazy news articles. And I have an idea of what we're going to cover. We're going to take it back to the late 80s, early 90s tomorrow. I don't know which case I'm going to cover yet, though. There's 2 that I've been looking into. And with that, I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. You guys are awesome, and I look forward to this every day with great anticipation. I hope you guys have a good night, and I hope you have sweet dreams, and I hope the rest of your day is absolutely amazing. Bye.